Judgment time.
Welcome to Everything Comes Back to 2000 AD, and today we're joined by Mr. Stephen Ross.
Mr. Rossi, what you want? Oh, the tree of ice cream cones, a cocoa castle for a home, custard cakes, coffee breaks, holiday world to say.
Hello from sunny and sometimes misty Southern California.
And Mr. John Burtis.
Hello to all you drockers out there from an exceptionally sunny Maidstone in the Garden of England, surrounded by vineyards of the finest quality.
Ooh.
So what have you been up to, Mr. Rossi? Have you got your vaccine passport yet?
I can neither confirm nor deny that at this time. No, I've been working on my unnamed book that everyone knows as a Carolyn Monroe project. And what else? Oh, I saw Stupider's Legacy, all of it.
Oh, you watched it all?
Shit.
I watched it all as well.
Did you watch it?
I did indeed.
What did you think?
It took a fucking long time to say nothing.
Oh, God, you are not wrong.
I only watched the first episode.
It was, I mean, people bagged on it because of the wigs and the fake beards and all that, and I was fine with that part of it, because it was like, everything is made for 4K, and it's like impossible, all the stuff that film grain and lighting could cover.
Yeah, it's like in the Batman movie when they can't use chemicals on TV and you see all the blots. The 89 movie. Remember?
Which one, what?
The 1989 Batman movie where the Joker puts stuff in the chemicals so they can't wear lipstick or makeup on TV. So you see all the blots and the thing.
Yeah. No,
it's the same with 4K.
Yeah, I mean, you can't... The old, wigs and fake mustaches and all that all looks terrible in 4K. And it's not... I don't think it's the costumer's fault. I just think that, it's too much resolution now. You can't cover these things up. But it just, I praised Shadow and Bone, and it was like so much plot and so much story that they almost couldn't contain it all, and it felt like it moved really fast. And my friends at work who read the books, by the way, if you're interested, Vroman's Bookstore has an exclusive. The author of the books comes in, signs periodically, and basically saved the store because we're back up to 2019 numbers thanks to her book sales.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so thanks to Lee Bardugo. But anyway, you're the patron saint of Romans. But so the book to miniseries or series comparisons very, very good with that one. And there was just like so much plot, so much story, so much going on, and so much world building. And they said that the characters were even like better defined on the TV show than in the books. But this thing, it's a graphic novel. I have a feeling that Frank Quietly's artwork probably carried a lot of it. I haven't have you either of you read the graphic novel?
No.
Yeah, I am not a huge fan of Mark Millar's writing. I think
Who?
That guy who sold his comic universe to Netflix for $7 million only to have it yanked after a season. Anyway, I do not like his... I didn't think any of the characters were that memorable or likable. I didn't think the story was... It was just so much padding. I think the thing about Netflix is that it's not that it's slow. It's just that they let every single thing play out. Everything has like lots of room to breathe. So there's nothing wrong with the acting. And there's nothing wrong with the script, and there's nothing wrong with, I honestly don't want to know what it is, and I don't want to have to watch more Netflix to figure it out. But it's like when it doesn't have source material that has like tons of stuff that they have to cram in. I found this same thing with the Marvel ones. It was just, there was nothing wrong with scene by scene by scene, but like it just felt like, who cares when it was over? Or it just felt like it took forever for things to happen.
I read somewhere, I've seen quite a few places, people keep saying it cost $200 million for that series.
Yeah, I guess I could.
How the fuck? Because, you were going to say you could see that. I was going to say I could not see that on screen.
It's because it was, 8 hours?
That's because $200 million went into Mark Miller's pockets, while the other $11 million was used for the show.
Well, I mean, it felt like if it had been a movie, it had been a feature film, like the amount of sets and costumes and all that. That felt like it could have been, but but part of it's because it just takes a long time to edit. 8 hours worth of editing and 8 hours worth of music and 8 hours worth of acting and everything. So I could see it.
The old part of it, the history part of the program, rather than the modern take.
Right. Yeah, but and there was nothing. I'm just tired of the whole deconstructed superheroes thing, because the whole thing is built on the back of, you already know what a Superman-like character is, and you already know what a Batman superpower. Well, this was like a superpowered Batman, but you already know what characters like that are like from comics and other movies, so they don't really have to build up these characters, and it's just the story of this code thing. And I just stopped caring about 2/3 of the way through, but I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, I got to see how this ends. And then when they announced the cancellation, I came to it a little bit late. So when they announced the cancellation when I was about 2/3 of the way through, and people were already saying like, yeah, and it's not a finished story either. It's like to be continued.
So I've got to get this right. So you found out it was finished, and you were about 2/3 through.
Yeah. And
still you won't watch fucking Breaking Bad.
Because it was only 2 more episodes as opposed to like 5 seasons.
With the whole finish to the seasons. That's it, the whole story's finished.
Yeah, I know, but we're talking like how many hours of TV watching?
You've got plenty of time to do nothing while you're sat in America because you can't leave the country.
I'm sitting around waiting for you, John, to come to me. Anyway, so what did you do, Flint?
I've been working on that Jungle Girl strip. I've got 1 page left to finish colouring, and then I'm gonna go in and lather it, try and put some story together for it.
Oh, well, we can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, so that, and I'm doing an illustration for your Carl Monroe book.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta get
looking
that done.
good.
Yeah,
shaping up really nice. You know what? Speaking of something like that, I read a book you might like. It was called, I think it's called The Invincible Red Sonja. It's like one of the newer Dynamite series, and I'm kind of like done with 99% of the Red Sonja books, because it's either the same thing or it's the same thing done really bad and boringly. But this was Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor writing it, and
the Morita artwork.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks amazing. He's a really good artist. He did a Jungle Girl strip a while back too. I think he did Sheena. Yeah, I think he did Sheena.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought he's got to be European.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Very European, kind of like heavy metal.
His style has gotten a little bit scratchy, but he's just incredible.
Yeah. So this one, the jokes land, but they don't do that Xena anachronistic thing where it's like, oh, how I know what that is because that's happening now. It's they keep it consistent in the world, and it's just full of each issue is like full of action. There's like a couple of action bits in issue 1 and in issue 2, and it's basically Red Sonja doing what you want to see Red Sonja do, like drinking and fighting. So yeah, it's great. It's really cool.
I think he did a Flash Gordon illustration when he first started out. That was really good.
Oh, okay. So he's a man after my own heart all across the board, huh?
Yeah. He's been around for a while.
Cool. So, yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, I came to it because Jimmy Palmiotti and...
Oh, he's a good writer.
Yeah, so some of the writers they've been having, it's like I either don't know who they are, and then I'll flip through it and go like, well, or it's, Gail Simone, and it's just, we talk about padding. Nothing happens. People standing around talking in a Red Sonja book or whatever. And this was definitely what you pay to see.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the last episode of season 11 of Supernatural, John.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just he took out the Stein family.
Oh yeah, they've got loads of clips of that on YouTube because it was so good, so enjoyable.
Dean goes on a rampage. He does a full-on Rambo.
How many seasons are there? The
15.
15?
Yeah.
15.
All right.
You won't be watching it, Mr. Ross, because it's got an ending.
Yeah.
It's because it's 15 seasons of watching.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if it's good, isn't it worth watching something that's good than watching something that's crap halfway through?
Well, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be crap. I didn't go like, "Oh, yeah, it's crap." I just heard that, like, "Oh, this thing's not finished."
You got glowing reviews from me and John about Breaking Bad, and still you won't watch it.
Because if I can get my dad to watch it, then maybe what? Maybe I'll double down and find out where it's.
Tell him there's lots of shooting in it.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll find out where it's showing, and then we'll give it a try because Queen of the South is coming to an end. What else?
Queen of the South is coming to an end. What the hell is that?
It's a USA show about a Mexican drug cartel, which is hilarious that you don't know what it is, because here in
I'm not a drug dealer from Mexico.
Well, no, it's an English language show. It's shot here in America in English with an English-speaking cast, and half the people behind the scenes are not Mexican. So, I mean, that's very
sounds like cultural appropriation to me.
Very accessible. Well, I mean, there's some scenes with subtitles.
I think Mr. Ross appears in his Chola outfit and his Devo hat.
Queen of the South.
Devo Cholo. Yeah, it's great. It's now that one's 5 seasons.
62 episodes. It's been on since 2016.
Yeah, so that's a goodie. It's a good show. It's funny because like you haven't heard of it, and it's not praised or anything. It literally ticks every single box that the cultural critics have been like saying, like, oh, we need more powerful women, we need more women minorities, we need more. It's like all of that is in the show. That's 100% what this is about, except it's done in an entertaining, interesting, exciting, dramatic, action-packed way. And then nobody talks.
I'm sorry, I recognise a few of the faces when I'm looking through the cast.
It's a lot of character actors you've seen everywhere else. Yeah.
Well, what was that with the drug? Something Zero, was it? Something like that?
Oh, what was it, 000 or something like that? Yeah. Now that one was good too. That was a little more serious and dramatic. But this show is like, it's a little bit of a soap opera. It's a little bit of quite a lot of action. It's probably, I've saw the first few episodes of Breaking Bad, and kind of it's similar in its way. It's a little more straightforward, or it's a little more straightforward. Breaking Bad's kind of like it's a little more innovative. Breaking Bad had like a more innovative way of telling that story.
Queen of the South on IMDb gets a 7.9 ratings out of 10. Breaking Bad gets a 9.4.
Yeah, well, that's because they're racist. They're racist and they're sexist.
Well, here's the funny thing, John. He watches Better Call Saul.
Do you?
I did. Well, I saw the first season because Lestat wanted it. So
For education.
I stopped watching after the first season.
Well, how many episodes in the first season of Better Call Saul? 10? 8?
I don't remember. It was a while ago.
But you only watched 2 or 3 of Breaking Bad.
I didn't have I would have had to sailed the high seas to get those episodes, or buy the DVD set.
Yarg.
Yeah, so it just got to be like a big hassle to do that on a regular basis, and so I'm sure I didn't have cable at the time, so I'm sure that it's somewhere on streaming. So I'll look into it. I really will look into it because, and also the biggest problem with it at that time was there was no fucking way in hell my mom was going to watch that show. Yeah. So she got to the point towards the end where like anytime there was shooting or maybe it was like the loud noise thing, but anything with shooting or drug deals or whatever, just the whole subject matter about it, she was just going to complain about it the whole time. She was going to complain about it out loud while the show is playing.
Excellent.
So you couldn't hear what's going on.
Well, if I could just ask you, next time you mention your mum, could you please say the parent who gave birth to you rather than use anything like mother? Yes, I will. I know that our listener might be sensitive, and
if they are, they're listening to the wrong fucking
that
show.
That's the thing.
Yeah, if they listen to the wrong podcast, they're sensitive. Are you still wearing masks in Romans?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe...
Why?
That's a question I ask myself every day, 3 or 4 times a day since the Fauci emails have come out, but supposedly we get to, we will be opening up. It's been like a real back and forth thing, but California opens up, I think, on the 15th. So the rule is that like vaccinated people they get to be the privileged citizens of the world and can go around without masks on. But at Romans they aren't going to enforce it. It's just going to be like good neighbor honor system.
Wow, your staff is going to freak out.
They already are. They already have.
Because they're so far left, they're going to freak out. They see someone walk in without a mask.
Well, I mean, many of them have said that they're going to continue to wear masks, even though most of them are, I think, pretty close to everybody's fully vaccinated.
Will there be a special bell that'll have like a special bell, a little button in their suit, so when somebody comes in who hasn't got a mask on, they'll press that button. Wherever you are in the store, you'll come forward and say the day. They'll all hide in the back rooms, and you'll come forward and say, "Let me deal with this unmasked person because I know I won't." Oh, you mean you want me to waddle out there with my morbid body and go, "Hello, can I help you?"
With your over 50 morbidly obese body, yeah. Bring your belly wheel to work day.
We just got to say, listeners, that before we went live, we ripped Mr. Ross to pieces.
Yes, because I was saying that I'm in perfectly good health, person my age, and I just need to lose about 30 pounds. And they're like, "Oh, well, that takes you down into the high risk rate."
It does. Like, you're obese.
You're in the death group.
I'm fine. I insist.
He's like that dog. He's like the dog in the meme. You know, he sits around the house on fire. I'm fine.
Yeah. No, I have my nuclear health drinks every morning and take my weird Indian herbs that.
On your tombstone, it'll say something like, I'm not really dead. I'm quite fine, really.
Those monster drinks are full of chemicals, Mr. Ross. You don't even know where they came from.
Oh no, the monster drink is only for the podcast, and I didn't even have one this morning. The one that I have for breakfast is it's full of chia and quinoa and flaxseed and hemp and fistfuls of greens that run through the Ninja, cayenne pepper, and that doesn't even count the vitamins I take. So yeah, it's a pretty healthy morning drink.
I bet you it tastes like shit though.
You can't even smell it without gagging. You literally have to gag it down. It's awful. Well, actually, you know what? I use that cacao. It's like the unsweetened chocolate. Cacao. Yeah. So there's some cacao in there, and that helps the smell a little bit and helps the flavor a little bit. It's really bitter though. It's really bitter.
I told you I've been watching the Tarzan movies, right? The Lex Barker ones.
Yeah.
And the one Tarzan the Slave Girl where all the natives look like fat Italian lobsters.
Are you watching? Are you watching because it's Pride Month? No.
All the like I said, all the natives, they're not even black. They look like fat Italians. Fat Italian lobsters. It's like, leave the spear, take the cannoli. Hey, capiche! I could have swore I heard a couple of guys going, capiche!
Hey, Tarzan, your mother ape's a whore.
Oh, they're trying to make Tarzan an offer he can't refuse. Yeah, it's really bad. And the make-up African language they're speaking is just gobbledygook. It's funny crap. And
yeah. You were smart to buy them because you got them on disc, right?
Yeah, because they're going to be cancelled.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a matter of time, before somebody gets a hard-on for Tarzan, and that's it. They're done. I mean, it's when you think about it, Tarzan was probably the first big movie franchise.
Yeah.
Because I think nearly every year there was a Tarzan movie. I think the idea behind it was to make it an event for families to go out and see a Tarzan movie. So that's why there was a Tarzan movie nearly every year.
Yeah. There's a lot of... I've only seen a few of them. It's especially after you read the books, it's kind of hard to sit through those movies.
I watched the original, the Elmo Lincoln one.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bad.
There's a documentary I think out there called like Tarzan in Kentucky or something like that, and it's about the making of the Elmo Lincoln cereal.
Well, the second one, the sequel to it, The Revenge of Tarzan, it was actually called The Return of Tarzan. Well, the original title was Revenge, and then they changed it to Return, so that's just linked to Star Wars, I suppose. Or
right,
Star Wars.
Tarzan doesn't seek revenge.
Yeah, so it's that movie's completely lost.
Oh, really?
That's one of the lost movies. And the Tarzan movie after that with the different actor, that was lost as well. So
I had no idea those existed.
Yeah, that one's gone, and so is the movie after that with a different actor, different production company. That's gone too. And then there was some stage where there was two different competing Tarzan movie productions. Larry Buster Crabbe's Tarzan came out around the same time as Weissmuller's Tarzan the Ape Man.
Wasn't the Buster Crabbe one a cereal though?
Yeah, there was a couple of them that were cereals that were sliced together.
Yeah.
I watched Son of Tarzan.
I wonder if the cereal still exists anywhere.
I watched The Son of Tarzan. That's from 1921. That was a silent one, and that had 4 different acts in it, or 3 or 4 different acts.
Oh,
in
yeah?
it, and that had a cliffhanger. That had cliffhanger endings. But The Son of Tarzan
Sounds like you're chewing gravel.
Yeah. The Son of Tarzan, though, he's a little prick. He's a fucking asshole.
Well, what? Half his parenting is from monkeys.
No, this is when Lord Greystoke is back in well, he's supposed to be in the US. And he's all civilized now, and Jane's civilized, and they have a kid. But he's a little fucker. And what's funny is they when Edgar Rice Burroughs tried to sell the rights to Tarzan to movie companies, they turned them all down because they thought it was you couldn't film it properly. Because you're dealing with wildlife, tigers and not bears, tigers and apes and stuff. So they had eventually when he sold it, they had these acrobats play the apes in really bad ape suit and masks. They're in some cases, it was basically blackface. So, it was so bad. It's hilarious.
I don't know. I forgot whether it was one of those retroactive explanations or something, but supposedly the apes in the books are they're not like regular gorillas or regular apes. We know it's like some kind of like lost species of ape, and that's why they act a little differently and have ape language and all that other kind of stuff.
Right.
But I own like the Tarzan of the movies book because I'm not that big into the movie aspect of it. I've not really read it. Someone gave it to me. So, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I've been watching. I've been trying to watch some of the stuff on YouTube that's public domain.
So your wife comes in the room. No, Marnie, I'm only watching Naked Muscle Man because it's because I'm working on a Jungle Girl comic, not because it's Pride Month.
Yeah, they showed a lot of the trained chimps because. And the reason they do is because back in those days you didn't really see. You know what I mean? If you want to see an ape or something, you have to go to the zoo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is like when you watch those movies, you have to go in with the mindset. I mean, there's parts of them you can just sit back and enjoy, but you have to really go in with the mindset, like, this was the first time somebody filmed a crocodile slithering into the water, or this is the first time they sent cameramen to Africa. The studio sent cameraman to Africa to film all that stock footage of the animals that you've seen 1,000 times in every movie since.
Yeah.
But like those first two ones, that was like a real novelty. Like, holy shit! What is that?
Yeah. I think it was the Lex Barker ones. If we're going to do gay pride with Tarzan, it's not Lex Barker you want to watch. It's Gordon Scott.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Because he's the one that's all oiled up.
And that hair.
Yeah. He's gay Ron, big gay Ron's Tarzan. But there's
I actually watched a Steve Reeves movie at Big Gay Ron's house, so I lived the whole Rocky Horror Picture Show song about watching a Steve Reeves movie.
Yeah, like I said, it's not Lex Barker you want to watch. It's Gordon Scott. There was a funny one in Tarzan and the Magic Fountain. That's the first Lex Barker one, the one he took over from Johnny Weissmuller. And at the end of it, there's supposed to be this magic land or a hidden village where everybody stays young, right? By drinking this water from a fountain. So they found a plane that crashed and it's been in the jungle for 30 years. But the woman was still in her 20s because she was taken in by this village, right? And so anyway, it's all convoluted. And at the end of it, Cheetah takes a drink from the fountain, right, and turns into a completely different type of ape, like a little more like the ape in the animated series. Right. So it goes from a chimp into a different species of ape. And I'm like,
wow,
somebody didn't fucking think that one through. It's like in a Dracula movie where they had fucking armadillos walking around Transylvania.
Well, I have a question, too, that I'm going to put out to you guys and our listener. In the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he drinks from the... Isn't that the Fountain of Eternal Youth? Or the cup he drinks from, it's supposed to give him, like, immortality, right?
Yeah, the Grail.
He drinks from the Grail, and now... did the water just kind of go like, okay, you're healed now of that, grievous wound you have, so fuck it, my work is done, you don't get the immortality as well? Or is it just like, shouldn't he not be aging into 80-year-old Harrison Ford?
It doesn't matter because that movie was shit.
And I'm sure part 5 will be too.
Last Crusade had some nice moments in it, but it was a terrible movie, man.
It's pretty all over the place. Yeah.
It was too much on the yucks as well. They played up the yucks too bad. But it's like when they went through the tunnel being chased by that German plane, and the wings get chopped off the plane, and the pilot catches up to the car, and they both look at each other. It's like, oh man, the minute that plane hit that tunnel like that, it would have exploded.
You're worse than me.
Even like Mission Impossible, remember when Tom Cruise is flying a helicopter in the tunnel?
Yeah.
And its rollerblades are hitting off the top of the tunnel. I was like, dude, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the special effects for that whole blimp sequence don't hold up very well. I mean, they weren't very good back then, or they didn't look great back then, and they really do not hold up now.
Yeah, and Sean Connery's 2 years older than Harrison Ford?
Well, also, his character, I don't want to see Sean Connery bumbling through, you know. I thought he'd be cool, you know, like that's where I thought he'd be even cooler than Indiana Jones, and it's like Indy's just trying to live up to that, but no, he's just goofing his way through the whole thing.
The opening sequence was pretty good, where you get to see where he gets his little scar in his chin.
Yeah,
and the hat, where he gets the hat from.
Yeah,
well,
but again, it's like you said, it's got some good moments to it.
And then they made this shitty TV show where he meets every historical person ever that existed on the planet. Boring.
Right. And then he becomes like a boring old man. I think we're at the point, though, that somebody said that Harrison Ford in real life is actually much older than the guy who played old Indiana Jones in that TV series.
Well, he had tons of makeup on.
Yeah, well, I guess they're going to have to show how he lost his eye or whatever, you know.
The next movie.
Right.
When he's hiding in the fridge again.
Oh, God.
and we have Shia LaBeouf or whatever doing the Tarzan yell.
With the CGI prairie dogs.
That, the Indiana Jones has just begun filming, hasn't it?
Well, the thing, yeah.
I hope they have their COVID passports.
Yeah.
Well, he's a lot older than me, so he's much more...
He's not... Who's starting vroom vroom?
Well, I also didn't inhale like 50 kilos of marijuana, so my lungs aren't all fucked up from that, so...
So anyway, that's what I've been doing.
John went for a walk yesterday.
Go for walks all the time, mate.
Yeah?
Yes.
Do you wear your mask?
Only if we go to the shops, which we did.
Oh, there's no mask wearing over here in Arizona. It's gone. You might see 2 or 3 people, but the majority of people aren't. They're like, fuck it, no masks.
We just went round a place called St. Mary's Island, which is about, a few miles up the road from us, on the River Medway, and it's got a massive housing estate built on it, and it's a well thought out housing estate for a change. Lots of variations of the houses they've got there, and flats and stuff. Really looks nice. Big park built in with a specific area to run your dogs off the lead. Some nice, interesting bits when you're walking around.
Wait a minute, you're allowed to run your dog off the leash?
Yes.
And it's not against the law?
No.
So
wow.
if 3 or 4 dogs start beating the shit out of each other or biting each other, that's fine?
Well, that'll happen in that special area, so they can do what they like. It'll be like a cage fight. But you walk round and they've got these massive big information placard type signs where you can read about the history of the area. Because you've got a couple of years back, we went to the castle on the other side of the river, Upner Castle, where the Dutch came down, or the Netherlandese,
You sent me a picture of that castle, John. Thanks.
Yes, we've been inside it. It looks fantastic inside. It's only a small castle, and they do weddings and stuff. And when we went upstairs inside, you could see one of the rooms was set up for a wedding. And when we were leaving, the wedding party turned up, and it does look fantastic. It's like something you would see in an old film, the inside. You know what I mean? But yeah, so you're walking around, and it's saying like out in the Medway, there was all the hulks, as in not the Green Hulk, but the ship hulks where they put the prisoners in the olden days. And I was reading the article, and it was saying there'd be two people would have one space of 6 foot by 24 inches to sleep, and you would team up in pairs. And it did say if one of the two people in that sort of teamed up partnership died, the other one would soon die afterwards with the same thing that person had. You know, it was all this sort of stuff, the information reading it, and it was all about tons and tons of stuff. You know, if I started going on one thing, I'd have to say another thing. But it was fascinating. I said to Carolyn, I hope there's some way I can get a book on this, or look online, which has reminded me, and get something, because I got one on the Upner Castle and all the history on that.
Was there a fact check about the people dying right after the other one?
They don't have a fact check on a piece of on a big sign, but all this history is well known about this stuff. You know, you get taught a little bit, and you snippets here. Somebody will mention something. Every other year, there's something on the local news about the Medway, about the history of it and all that. You know what I mean? So it's all stuff that you've got little snippets in your head, but it's when you read the big spiel on it, you're like, fucking hell. You know, those were the terrible days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're walking around. And we got to this bit where we were going to turn in to go through the park, and there was that big sign that I put a picture up of, which was paid for by all the local people and local businesses, and all their names were where I did my jokey picture pointing to the whores, because it mentioned all the people involved in type of seaworthy stuff. So you can't talk about sailing in the olden days without mentioning whores, can you? Because all the old sailors would come in, the Jolly Jack Tars would come into port, into Chatham, and then they'd be in the local pubs and getting a few prozzies up the old, having a night out with them, then getting back on the ship to go and do something else. So that was the sort of thing. So, and I thought that was good, how they had all these things. And I read all the stuff going around the whole of the base, which was quite large. And then in smaller writing underneath was all the firms and the local people who donated money to build this statue. And the statue was of I think it was like 36 foot, I can't remember, the 38 foot sail. And on one side was a Jolly Jack Tar, an old sailor from the old days, hauling the rope up, to pull the rope to get the sail to go up. And on the other side was a modern female sailor in a very similar position, leaning right back, rope wrapped around one of the arms to get a leverage on it. And it was fantastic. The detail was beautiful. And in that area, there was a little slipway that went down to the river.
Mm-hmm.
It was very muddy because the tide was out. But I read, when I was quickly online to get a little bit of information about this area, it said that this was the slipway that would take people over to the other side of the river in the olden days, the very olden days, little ferries. But they had tons of seating around this area and loads of nice lighting that looked well with the buildings. And I said, I can imagine all this area out the summer months having massive parties down here because it looks so fantastic, you know what I mean? And then going through the park, that was a nice recreational park, and there was, in the middle of the housing estate was play areas for children that had like little names, because when I was looking on the route to see what we were going to do, I was going, oh look, there's a play area there for kids, play area there. So obviously when they invested in this place, they went, right, let's do this so it works well with the houses, with the children, with this, that, and the other. And there was tons of space for cars, right? Because I said to Carolyn, I said, do you know what was weird? I didn't see that many cars at all when we walk around, because the way they put the houses, the cars, they were basically hidden from everywhere. Or I imagined that, you know what I mean? But I didn't see that many cars. And then at the very end, you walk down past the marina to go back to where the big Chatham dockyard is, where they filmed loads of stuff over the years. And we're going to get tickets again for for the year for Chatham Dockyard, because we haven't been for a while, and once you buy one ticket, that does you for the year type of thing. But there's lots of stuff in there that's very interesting. There's lots of Royal, the National Lifeboat stuff, so there's loads of stuff in there about that. There's here HMS Gannet, which was one of the ships that ended the slave trade around the world. You've got a submarine there and another battleship, I think it is, in dry dock. And so we got back, and then there was like a big shopping complex there, and there's also loads of food outlets, and the place was flooded with people, you know, because it was so sunny and bright, not a cloud in the sky type of thing. And we popped in, and I saw these fantastic Union flag this Union flag bunting. Now, I have got bunting, but it's all plastic rubbish. But this is proper cloth stuff, and so I bought 2 loads of that. So that's obviously when I made the back garden to the racist paradise. 'Cause that's what happens when you. That's what happens when you put your flag up in this country. You're an instant racist. And the funny thing is, as we walked around this beautiful bit of grassland in the park, and I looked down, I saw a Union flag. Sorry, no, it was St George's Cross in front of one of the houses. And me and Carolyn laughed because we just know we have to say it. We go, I'm racist, because that's the big joke. But the thing is, we got the European Championships, the football kicking off. I think this weekend.
This Friday.
Yeah, so obviously that's an England fan getting his flag out, ready for a few drinks and a bit of all that. But yeah, so yeah, it was a lovely afternoon, and then we went to Granny and Grandad's for our dinner. But yeah, this app that I've been using. We did a fantastic walk last week as well. No, it's just getting out and doing things, because the problem with a lot of the walks is they're not circular, and you don't want to be going in a car to the beginning of the walk 10 miles, and then have to get back to the car somehow. You know what I mean? So it's always beneficial to get a circular walk. Mm-hmm. We also went to Rochester, which for you, Mr. Ross, it would be like a film set, because the history on it is it's Dickens. He was there. You've got the cathedral, the castle. The streets are still very much like it was, the main high street. And I took that picture of the town crier. He was there in his red outfit, and it was bloody warm. So we did see him later on with the jacket off and his little waistcoat on, but he was very smiley. So I got a fantastic picture of him. And
did you give him a halfpenny and a tuppence?
Mr. Ross. That's terrible. Anyway, so he told me that it was supposed to be like a Dickens type festival today, but the council had said no, it's cancelled. But lots of people, he said, were turning up in their historic outfits, and we saw about 50 people throughout the street when we were walking up and down.
Was the town crier wearing a mask?
No, nobody was wearing masks on the street.
Oh, okay.
The weird thing was, for a Saturday afternoon when we did this, it was a lot less packed than I've ever known it before. So there's a lot of people staying in still, or they might be doing walks and things elsewhere. But yeah, it was fantastic. I bought a lovely bottle of English sparkling wine from a proper wine shop. We had a good old talk in there. We talked about the vineyards up near us on the North Downs. And they were very obviously knowledgeable on it, and they said, well, the reason it's there, it's south facing for the sun, and it's the sun all the time, and it's going to be one of the best wine. The wine they're going to grow in these areas is going to be like the best in the world type of thing because of that, and it's in chalk. So that was interesting. We also had a nice pub lunch type of thing. I think I spent a couple of £100 actually. I bought all sorts of. We went in this one shop, like a shop full of knickknacks. And I bought this statue type garden ornament for Carolyn for the garden when it's her birthday, and Sam kept feeling this sheepskin that was on. There was a big pile of sheepskins, and every time he was sort of like moving around, he was feeling it. I said, "Do you like that?" And he was, "Yes." So I thought, "I'll buy that." Fucking £50. But you know what it's like. Now you haven't got a mortgage, you can just spend money willy-nilly. And that's what got him, so he really loved it. And then we bought all that when we were on the way back to the car, sort of thing. You know what I mean? So you just sort of, right, you've got to go back in that shop. But yeah, it's a beautiful street, and we always park just away from it, so you don't have to pay, sort of thing, and we just walk towards it. And yeah, it's just, you're just making the most of the weekends, you know what I mean? Because there's not really much else you can do at the moment. But yeah, the walking's fantastic. And you mentioned the face masks. You obviously seen my 2 fantastic masks I had made from my local tailor, who used my Judge Dredd material that I had for my shirt, and they look fantastic. £5 each they were. And the detail that's gone into them, I mean, he's put like cloth on the back and all that, so yeah, I'm impressed with them. Also mentioned the tailors. We picked up Sam's suit the other day, and he's wore it in the house, but I want to get him down near the church and the Archbishop's Palace, because the background is there is stunning, so you get a nice picture of him. But the problem is, because it's so bloody hot at the moment, I don't want him to walk down there sweating to death, you know what I mean? So we'll wait till it cools down a bit, get some nice pictures. Also mentioned my Union flag bunting. Well, you obviously saw the other day when I had my Union flag jacket, my blazer. The weird thing was, Carolyn had seen this picture of oh god, I showed you, didn't I? The bloke who did the terrible Cockney accent, the American, Dick Van Dyke, and he was 95, and he was sitting on a bench with his feet up, and he had his shoes with the American flag on, and they looked absolutely stunning. And he looked well for 95. Now, I'll mention this, his Cockney accent he did in the film, he was taught that Cockney accent by a voice specialist. So blame the voice specialist, because he did exactly what he told me to do. So anyway,
you're caping for him. You're caping for Dick.
I'm just saying the fact. So anyway, I thought, I wonder, I'll have a look online, see if there's any Union flag shoes. And there was, but there wasn't any available. It was all like in the past. But there was this pair that were absolutely stunning, but they were like £495. I thought, nah, because you just know somebody will trod on your feet, knacker them, and you'd be screaming. So I thought, I remember when I saw Richard E. Grant wearing a Union flag jacket at the opening of something many years ago, within 10 years ago, popped up on my feed somehow. And I looked at the time and I couldn't find anything that I could buy, because it was like not available, that sort of thing. So I just looked online again while I was just sort of sat down here at the computer, and I seen a site selling them for £300, but they were reduced to 129.
Was the site Wish?
No, it was called Rhino. It's a sports type. Rhino, it's called, as a sports type company. I've got my little ticket here. Rhino, name, Union jacket, blazer, garments of distinction, it's called. Anyway, so I just went, right, let's look at the measurements here to make sure I get the right thing. Right, measure myself up. Right, okay, that'll fit me. Ordered it straight away. And then I said to Carolyn, I said, for Father's Day or our wedding anniversary, which is coming up, I said, I've got myself a jacket if you want to get us for it. And it turned up 2 days later. So when I took that picture, it was just straight out of the bag that it turned up in. That's why it's creased a little bit. But I'm well impressed with it. So I can go around now, and everyone will be going, racist! Racist! How dare he wear the flag?
I'm racist and I know it.
But talking about that,
racism?
Yes.
Oh.
Talking about that, I watched a video on YouTube the other day, and it was really weird. It was a these videos where people watch a video and talk about what they're watching while you're watching it.
That's what Rossi does all day.
That's what he watches all the time. Yeah. So it was a young black lady, and she was watching a 20-minute video about Britain ending slavery on the high seas. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating because I recognised the voice, and oh God, what's his name? Guru Murthy. People will be saying, "Oh, John, you got his name wrong." Christian Guru Murthy. He was the voice that was on this video, so it was like a proper person that I know from the TV. And there was one bit at the end where they were talking, and the ship, the Gannet, which is the ship that's in the Chatham Dockyard, he talked about that, and he said, on the west coast of Africa, the British went down with a specialist fleet. Where have I put this information? Let me just find slave trade. I've written some stuff down. In 1807, Britain abolished its own slave trade, and in 1808, the Britain's Royal Navy created the West Africa Squadron to suppress the slave trade. It was under-resourced and had corruption, and only managed to stop 6% of the trade from the west coast of Africa. It patrolled a 3,000-mile coastline, saving 150,000 African slaves. After the Americans outlawed the slaves in the 1860s, Britain then patrolled the east coast of Africa, especially around Mombasa and Zanzibar. These two places supplied the Middle East with slaves. HMS Gannet patrolled these waters till around 1900.
They supplied the Middle East with slaves.
Well, let me finish, yes. That ship is on display in Chatham Dockyard, just up the road from us, and I've been on it without knowing its history, which is shame on me, and that's why I want to get back there. In 2009, Prime Minister Gordon Brown gave President Obama a pen holder made from a piece of timber from that very ship. So that's interesting. Now, it mentioned about the slave trade to the Middle East because on the video it said, you will know there's not many black people in the Middle East who originate from the slave trade. Whereas if you look at the slave trade in America, there's a lot of people descended from the slave trade. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason there's not many black people descended from the slave trade in the Middle East is they would chop off their penises and their balls so they could produce. And when I heard that bit, I was taken aback because I was like, I never knew about that. You know what I mean? Because there's only so much history you can know of the planet.
They don't need to do that anymore now because of the coronavirus. Automatically does that for you in 2 years.
Mm-hmm. So I'm watching this, and then near the end of it, they mentioned the Union flag, and I actually got goosebumps when this bit happened. And the woman on the screen,
because it's racist.
That's right. The woman on the screen got quite emotional. And what he says is, when a pirate ship, a slaver ship, saw another ship approach it with this flag flying high and proud, they knew that the time was up, and all the slaves on that ship knew freedom was at hand because the British were stopping the slave trade. And I just went, when your hairs pop up, I just thought, you know what? Yeah, we have bad past, and I know there'll be some people going, yes, but we did things bad. Yeah, I'm not denying that. But people seem to forget that it was Britain that said to the world, this has to end. Now, we have slaves.
Hold on, you didn't need slaves anyways, because that's what you used the fucking Irish for.
Yes. Yes. But what annoys me is people seem to choose to be very picky. Now, I know horrible things went on. I learned a little bit on that video about the way nobody reproduced in the Middle East, but I know about stuff here, there, and everywhere. But I do get annoyed when people just go on about, and that's why I'm ex-military. For people who don't know, I'm proud of our flag. I know its history. I know the bad things, but I also know the good things. We're the only country in the world that many of the people in the country detest our own flag. I've never known it. That's
weird, man. It's starting to happen over here, but it's not.
The French flag, the French flag flies proudly everywhere. The Canadian flag, proudly everywhere. The Russian flag, proudly everywhere. We all have bad history. Every country has bad history, and we've got to sort of take that and go, right, we understand that, but let's also celebrate our good history as well at the same time. Let's just sort of beat ourselves over the bloody head with a bloody stick saying we're evil, we did this. Well, we know did all that, but we also stopped it in the end. You know what I mean? I just can't understand it. But you know what I mean? That's the way it is. But I was fascinated by that, so I've actually been watching loads of other videos on that sort of aspect of the slave trade to find out more for my own interest. And when we do go to that Chatham Dockyard, I do intend to have a good proper look at this ship, the HMS Gannet. I'll probably do a little video of it as well, sort of thing, to show people. But yeah, it's like, you know what I mean, the Welsh, you know what I mean, let's talk about the individual countries in the United Kingdom. The Welsh fly their flag proudly, the Scottish fly their saltire proudly, you know what I mean? But again, because the St. George was corrupted by the bloody I forgot what they're called now, because I think it was the modern version, the English Defence League. What were they called before? The National Front. The National Front.
National Front, yeah.
And as I've mentioned many, many times, when you see them on the news, there's only a few of them. It's very minute in this country, but if you want to go to a place like Europe, where it's their equivalents in France, Germany, Hungary, Poland, they're massive. You know, but yet in this country, most people are decent. You know what I mean? And I know people say, death to all Tories. There's many Tories who are decent. You know what I mean? They just believe a different thing in the law to do this, that, and the other. They don't believe everything. You know, it's just madness. Nobody can. I mean, we're going well off subject here, but nobody can have a proper conversation. Nobody can have a proper conversation anymore, can they? So people just don't talk about anything. You know, they don't talk about anything politics because
I'm gonna have to cut all your ranting out, John, because it's racist.
That's right. But it's true, though, isn't it? And you find out that there's like very clever people in society are actually saying the same thing now. They're just saying we don't have conversations anymore because as soon as you point across, you're screamed at and shouted down. And I've seen some terrible stuff with David Baddiel. And I mentioned this before. David Baddiel did a program about these people who didn't believe that the Nazis exterminated all those Jews, right? And so he said, and so he met a couple of people, and he talked about it. And me and Carolyn watched this program, and it was truly unbelievable to believe that these people thought it didn't happen, right? And I actually talked about this at work. I mentioned this before. One of the blokes there, and he said, "Oh, them numbers, they weren't real numbers. That was well below that." And I went, "Hang on a second. You're telling me that 5 million Jews weren't killed, and 1 million political people and people with disabilities weren't killed by the Nazis?" He went, "Nah, not those numbers." And I went, "Fucking hell," you know what I mean? Oh, here comes Carolyn. All right. Right. Just shut that door. And I just couldn't believe it. So I found a person at work who was one of those people. Now, the thing about this is, so David Baddiel, who is a Jew, just in case people didn't know, he then got hate mail on the internet saying he disbelieved what was going on and all because he did that program. And he was like, well, hang on a second. When in that program did I say I don't believe it? You know,
yeah, there's a disconnect and there's...
You can't say anything.
Yeah, well, there's a disconnect and people think you've said something that you haven't said. That goes on all the time. And all you have to do is look at an internet argument to see that. Go ahead, Rossi.
I mean, look at Gal Gadot.
What?
Gal Gadot.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Gal Gadot actually right now. What do you?
Right,
what?
so look at Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. Everyone in Israel has to do national service. It's the law. So she did it, and then she dared the other day, a few months back, whenever it was, or when the shit was in the fan between Israel and Palestine. She dared to say, "I hope peace happens soon," or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. Instantly, she gets barracked saying, "You support Israel." Now, in that tweet, where did it say she supported Israel? She said she wants peace. So you can't talk normally to anybody because it just goes bonkers.
Well, the chances are she probably does support Israel, but
yeah, but people
doesn't matter.
If you imply, well, you know, they could reach peace without fighting and come to some kind of accord or whatever. You know, you know who might set that up? Trump.
You just, as soon as you went true, you vanished then.
Oh, probably for the best.
Yeah.
that was the Skype fact checker editing.
But anyway, apart from that, I bought some ice cube things that make ice cubes, like the molds the other day. I got them big ones the other day, but I also bought some Death Star molds. So I have ice cubes that are 6 centimeters in diameter and look like the Death Star. They are fantastic.
Wow.
I got 2 of them, and you put them. Take a good 12, 24 hours to freeze because they're so big.
Mm-hmm.
But I was impressed.
Yeah. Do you have a cup big enough to put those in?
Yeah, they go in a pint glass and things like that. You know what I mean? So
nice. I used to have a Ninja Turtle ice cube mold, but it just didn't look like a Ninja Turtle once you froze it.
Yeah, I think with the modern tech now, it's much easier to make these things, these molds and stuff, and it's
more detailed, more accurate.
Yeah, because you even have the laser piece stuck that goes in it. You know what I mean? So when you can see which bit that is, it's not just a circle with a few little bits on.
You get some for the bachelor party shaped like boobs and dicks.
That's it. Should we talk about some products that we've coming our way? We've got, apparently, there's a San Diego Comic Con Death Badge, that's Judge Death Badge, exclusive is on sale.
From when? From last year?
From when we were there.
Nice. Exclusive, huh?
A San Diego exclusive, yeah, you can get them now.
Oh, good. All right.
And you've also got T-shirts, which have the Prog logos on, 2000 AD is selling, or Rebellion, I don't know which part they decide who's selling. So you've got, you can have the 2000 AD logo, the Star-Lord standalone logo, and they also do the 2000 AD / Star-Lord and the 2000 AD / Tornado logo.
I'm surprised Marvel haven't moved in there and said, hey, no Star-Lord T-shirts.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. So you can get them, and also the Judges books, Volume 4, Book 1, Michael Carroll, Necessary Evil. That's going to be out in a month. That's $7.99. Now, the weird thing about that is it's not a signed book exclusive, which we've had on every single book beforehand through the Rebellion shop. And the postage is potentially, it says, £4.16. Now, it was £3.50 before, and I did resent paying £3.50 for one book to be sent to my house. But I bought it because it's Judge Dredd and I'm helping them out. But that's it. I've decided now I'm not buying that one. Potentially $4.16, which is over half of the cost of the bloody book to come to my house. So what I would do is when all three books are being published, I'll wait for the omnibus and buy that for £8. You know what I mean? But I just think,
why don't you just buy all the logo T-shirts and make it worth your while? If you're paying for that postage anyway.
Why would I pay for a T-shirt when I don't want that shite? I want T-shirts that have the old designs on, which everyone in all the groups cries out for.
Yeah, well, if you put artwork on the T-shirt, you run the risk of getting asked embarrassing questions like, "Oh, so you like Simon Bisley, do you?" And then you go like, "I don't know who Simon Bisley is." Or, I like Mick McMahon, do you? Oh, who's that? He sounds like he's Irish. So
there's some products, but I also found a dry gin called Niemand Dry Gin. You can get a bottle of 500
milliliters. Does it taste bitter?
Well, I thought it would be like sort of a bile type.
Is it really watered down?
Yeah, watered down just seems to go on forever and ever.
Yeah.
And it's 46% proof though. But yeah, so there's the products if you want to buy some of them sort of things. Also, the Liam Sharp book finishes this week on Kickstarter, and I'm very happy with that because I shall be getting mine, I think it's September, and he's made up to now, and he's the pledged goal, I'll do it in the pounds. Oh, I just saw it go up then. It was pledged goal was £9,898, and he's made 83,710. And we've had quite a few updates, 32 updates. But one of the most interesting updates was a one-way kit. This whole process that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go into it all. He's been in comics for 35 years. I'm 53, born from the characters, and he's just explaining his life at the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just off the kitchen writing this, pleasant house, not being remodeled since the 70s, that sort of stuff. So he's explaining, even though he's made it quite well in America, this is his thing. So he said this Kickstarter changes all that. And he says, and I'm going to verbatim here, I can finally dream of a proper studio. I can dream of enough rooms to put up with visiting family and friends, not just float beds everywhere. I said it would be life-changing for us next year. I mean it, truly amazing. So please understand, I know all the above is still luxury, I want for nothing. I chose this life. I embrace it. But I think the dreams and aspirations I have, especially for a fairly well-known middle-aged creator, are not excessive or unreasonable. They are the kind of things we all wish for. And yes, you are part of making these dreams come a step closer of being a reality for us. It's a kind of miracle. So, and he's just basically saying, like, because a lot of people have like chatted to him over his Facebook page and stuff, and said like, well, you could have went with like a company, and he said nobody's interested in this Kickstarter. I took a gamble, and it's more than paid off, and I think it has. You know what I mean? So I think you're going to get a lot more people go down this route rather than, I think we mentioned something similar the other week. Rather than go right to the company and the company take the big chunk of the profit, you go to Kickstarter, and you're getting a hell of a lot more because it's your hard bloody work. And it's so nice to read something like that, because we've all met Liam. We all met him. I've met him before, but you met him at San Diego in the hotel, didn't we? Having a drink. Mm-hmm. It was just so nice to see somebody explain how much this Kickstarter means for him and his family.
Well, he seemed like a very, very nice guy.
Yeah,
and especially and I don't mean this in a mean way, but for a niche thing like that, that's the way to go. Absolutely, Kickstarter. The thing is, though, I don't mean to piss on his Cheerios or anything, but
here we go.
The reality is that once you have to pay for the printing, the shipping, all the other Kickstarter fees, and all the other kinds of stuff, that number is going to go down by a lot. But it's still, if he can stretch it out and make all his dreams come true with what's left over, that's really great.
He's doing two more, because this is the gold book. We're going to get the silver next year and the bronze the year after. I can see what you mean, but the thing is, it's got 1,121 backers, it says here, 3 days to go. The thing is, it gives him a validation, because he's obviously when he's decided to do this Kickstarter, he's thought, I'm just imagining this, like from the way he's written it, he might have thought
he wasn't going to get anything at all.
That's right. And now, as an artist, it must be fantastic to know you've got at least 1,121 people who went, I want a bit of this, I want a bit of your work on my bookshelf. And that must be a big thing.
What are you looking at are you looking at the page right now, the Kickstarter?
I'm looking at the page, and it says fully funded in under an hour.
That's fantastic. What's the like if I just wanted the book, no fancy
right,
covers.
If you wanted the book, let me just go into the campaign. Here we go. So if you wanted just a basic book, because obviously your price will be different to mine because of the postage.
Well, you can just say it in pounds, just in pounds without postage.
I'm just scrolling down because you have all the ones that are all sold out, haven't you? The room. Right, here we go. PDF, that was that one, that was 15. Right, so the hardback pledge of $35, Encore Gold hardback, a copy of Encore Gold, the art of Liam Sharp, single hardback edition. And he's got 109 backers of that. So
and he's only and it's only $35.
And then whatever the postage to you in America would be obviously cheap. I would think our postage is $20.
Okay.
Well, the poster would be cheaper because he's over here, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. So it'll be cheaper to you, but it's obviously more expensive to us.
See, the thing about Kickstarter.
I'm sorry. Let me just say this. That's $35, and it says about 25 quid for the UK. But if you pledge 37, you get the same book, but with the dust jacket. And if you pledge $42, you get all of that, but it's signed. So even $42, that's 30 quid.
That's not unreasonable.
I went for the next. Where's it? I went for the one which you get a. Let me just find it. I went for the signed bookplate and remark, which is a little drawing inside, and I $60. That's about 43 quid. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so, that's not one of the many nice things about Kickstarter is that you can. 1,000 copies of a book like that, I don't think would exactly, set the world on fire if it was published by a New York publisher. And we only have like 6 publishers now. It's like 6 major publishers, and then everybody's an imprint. Everybody's like a house that's been bought up by these guys.
Right.
So that almost isn't worth it for a publisher to do. But he can do it. He can go directly to his fans. And then I'm sure there's like tons of perks way up and down there, and so
there's some amazing perks.
Yeah, and it allows for people who either have deep pockets and or
no mortgage to pay off.
Or,
That's right.
Yeah, and or just really like the guy. It's like, let's say let's say there was a Zorro book that came out. Yeah. And the New York publisher would have to sell it for somewhere between $20 and $30 for a hardcover, blah 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 blah. But it's like, I really freaking like Zorro. I'd be willing to pay $50 for some extra crap, like an autograph, a sticker, that kind of thing, or even. The choice is, well, the New York publisher isn't going to do the Zorro book, but if I'm willing to go to Kickstarter and pay $50 for the exact same book, just the book, and that's it, I would still probably do it because I really freaking like Zorro. So, it really allows for people to, it's like, I'm willing to pay a little extra because I really like this guy's stuff, and if it's a choice between not having the book or paying extra for it, I'll pay the extra for it, that kind of thing. And it sounds like he's taking care of his fans, so it's not even that's not even an issue that you're paying extra for it. You're paying extra for it, but you get extra value.
Yeah, and he did a couple of things you get extra as the pledges went in, but he also did a special 10 times retailer option. So he says here, we are keen to help retailers as much as we can, and we are offering 50% off orders for 10 copies of the basic hardback and dust jacket option. And then it just says, please email blah 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 for further details. And he had 3 people go for that, 3 shops. That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean that's good for comic shops because they buy everything and then they're stuck with it.
Yeah.
We won't do anything unless we take unless we can do it.
I'm happy with that. I've got the David Roach Master of British Comic Art, and obviously we know there's some more stuff coming from David. And I've got another couple of books on the shelf. I've got character design by Kevin Crossley and another book by him. Some my design stuff, because it's just fascinating for me as just like a fan of art, what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, this might be interesting to our self-publishers out there, Flint. But I honestly don't know how this could be applied, or if it applies to comics or whatever. But this last weekend we had a couple of young, we have our young adult section for teenagers is upstairs where I work, and these 2 teenage girls came in, and she pulls out her phone and she goes, I've got a list of about 40 books that I'm interested in. And I was like, oh wow, okay. So after about the first 2 or 3 of them, we didn't have them in the store, and I couldn't even find them listed in our on our distributor's website. So I put in the ISBN on Amazon, and they came up, and they were published through CreateSpace, sort of like self-published through Amazon. And maybe a few of the books on the list were young adult titles, but a lot of them were adult romances, and you could tell by the covers that they were juicy. And then after the first,
ankle bracelet went off.
Well, when you look at on Amazon, they go like, people like you or other people like you who ordered this also bought this or also looked at this. So I noticed that all of the books that she was asking for were on this list. The other people like you recommended. And I said, was this off of Amazon? And my coworker instantly said, no, it's off of TikTok, and it's called Book Talk. And I was like, what is it? Just 15-second book reviews? And she goes, that's exactly it. And I was like, well, is it like Twitter and Instagram where these things just, they go into the algorithm if it's not seen within the first couple of days? She says, no. She says there'll be things that TikTok there's no real filing system or no real, I guess they're in order on the page, the person's page, but if you're just scrolling through, just random shit comes up that could have been posted weeks ago. So it's not like it'll just disappear after 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, wow. And apparently it's really effective. And then, weirdly enough, one of those, we had just we get drop-in authors all the time. It's like, oh, I wrote this book. Do you want me to sign it? Yeah, sure, go ahead, and we'll put the signed by the author sticker on. And she had a friend with her, and I was telling the TikTok story, and she said, oh yeah, one of my books was on that. And I said, really? And she goes, yeah, I've sold thousands of copies, self-published through CreateSpace, but somebody on Book Talk picked it up and reviewed it, and it just went around. And I'm like, wow, that is... I mean, I was pretty interested in that Webtoons thing, but the more I got into it, the more the quality of the work, even the most popular stuff, just was not appealing to me. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to translate into anything. It's like winning the lottery. Well, I mean, so's a bestseller in the real world, but it didn't really translate into anything in the outside world. Like, this guy I know got like 1 million reads on TikTok, and his comic sold like 600 copies in the real world. So, you know, and there are some people who do succeed, and there are some people who take that stuff to Kickstarter, and I guess they do okay, but it's not really something that's setting the world on fire outside of just kids consuming free comics, you know, one after the other. But this Book Talk thing, I mean, those certainly are some real world results, and I don't know if there's a comic book equivalent of that, and I hate to say it, but I mean, you know, people are going to watch a teenage girl get all excited start fangirling over a book more than another middle-aged guy saying like, oh, I really like Uncle Pat's Space Warp. You know, we might watch if it was entertaining, but I don't know if that would expand much beyond our circle of friends. Mm. So, but anyway, if somebody can figure out a way to get their teenage daughter to talk up their comic book, that might be a way to market to the kids these days.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Anything else?
No. Speaking of middle-aged guys talking about books and regressing even.
Well, let's do. You ready, John?
Let's talk.
Pew, pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble, Grub.
All right, so we're going to have Prague 2234. Just kidding. We're going to do the 1984 2000 AD annual.
You mean back when 2000 AD was for kids?
Yes. The proper regened.
When kids actually read 2000 AD?
Yes, the proper regened issue.
The annual that the
broke the internet.
Yeah.
What did you say, John?
The annual that the Eurythmics sang about. 1980.
Sex, crime.
All right, we have a cover by Dave Gibbons. What do you think of that cover?
Did you notice how that he must have one extra long link under the actual cover? Does it go underneath? Oh no, I can see it. There's more than 7. I was going to let him off and just say he had one extra long link to make that 7, but if you actually look under and you see where the cover goes under the backside of the prog, or the actual cardboardiness, you can see there's too many links. But it's an eye-catching cover, and it has the only person that's not really stood the Dredd stands the test of time. Rogue Trooper, still a big thing where people are like, that's one of the big grandees, the prog. Strontium Dog, Grandee the Prog, ABC Warriors with Hammerstein there, Grandee, Speedo Ghost and Ace Trucker, not so much, Sam Slade, not so much, you know what I mean?
What? I like Sam Slade.
Yeah, we like him, but he's not one of the big sort of things. When people talk about...
Not now, he isn't.
Not now, because he's been...
Prog, they'll mention a few things. Sam Slade never comes to the front. It'll always be like Slane, Dread, Rogue, ABC Warriors, that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? Mm. From the golden age.
Look at the zipper on Dredd as well. How big that is.
I know.
He must have been. It looks very McMahonish. that dread. And the lawgiver as well, John. Look at what way those rounds are in there. What you call it, magazines.
I actually thought that it might have been like McMahon inked by somebody else, or Dave Gibbons inked by somebody else. Like there might have been more than one artist involved in this. But or Cam Kennedy. There's like little Cam Kennedy-isms in there too.
Okay, the inside front cover, we have a Robin Smith drawing of Tharg, the Mighty One, the Cosmic Contents.
Well, what did you think? Wait! What did you think of the cover?
I like it. It's very iconic.
Yeah.
The only thing that looks kind of out of place is Speedo Ghost.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I would have loved this. It's like everything I want to see: badass dread, robots, guns. Bring it on.
All right, so on the inside we have that Robin Smith illustration, which is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
And our first story is Robo Hunter, Hoagie's first case. Script robot is actually Alan Grant, art robot Ian Gibson, and lettering Tom Frame.
Okay, so Hoagie picks up the phone, and somebody wants his help to stop this Robo Dog has gone on the fritz. So he brings Stogie along with him, and the guy says he's supposed to move, but the dog is going crazy and on kill mode, and so there's a bunch of slapstick antics that happen, and then it turns... And then it turns out, so the twist is that the guy who is said that was his house, he was actually a robber, and so he used Hoagie to get the Robo-Dog out of the way, robs the house. I forgot how and why the house ends up burning down, but it ends up burning down at the end, and the actual house owner shows up and blames Sam, and he's going to have to pay for everything.
It was the Robo-Dog bit, the cable, and it pulled off.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it now. Okay, yes. So, there you go. 5 pages of beautifully painted... Is that watercolor artwork?
It looks like it. It looks like watercolor and inks.
Yeah. 5
pages. It was 6 pages.
Yep. Nicely done.
I couldn't help myself. Do you know what? I did laugh at this because it's typical madness of the time. You know, it's not like a new tale. We've had this sort of tale before where burglars trick some idiot by their saying, "Oh, we're the removal people," and they still do it nowadays for real. But yeah, it was funny because Sam Slade wasn't involved in his own strip for the whole thing. In fact, we'd only see Sam at the very first bit was the inset where it looks a bit like Clint Eastwood, and then the final page, I think we see him for like 2 pictures, so 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures. So it's a Sam Slade strip. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought the artwork was good. It was nicely coloured in. You could see, like you say, you can see like a bit of watercolour where the colours, like on the very first page, we got the citizens and the crowd just to the left of Hoagie's head. You can see that green on the bloke's top. It looks like it might be watercolour effect there. But yeah, love the design work of the characters, with the design of the robot.
The bad guy actually looks like a bad guy too. So I mean, that should have been your sign. The Hoagie sign, first line. But even the striped shirt screams bad guy, because that's like the cliche burglar always wears a striped shirt, right?
Right.
And I thought it was funny where the dog has that Lego TV screen on its ass.
Yeah.
I know. How did they get away with that?
Yeah, it's good stuff. If this was in the current prog, it'll be like 10 parts spread out.
Oh, I know.
It's
The phone call alone would be like a whole episode. The thing is too, like there's not been to my knowledge, there's not been an animated version of this, but of Robo Hunter, but I can hear their voices as if it was like an actual cartoon.
Yeah, the lettering is really good too. I mean, all the effects lettering, it's pre-computer age, which is nice.
Right. Well, all the Stogie dialogue is like phonetically spelled out, so you really have to pay attention to how that breaks down.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be allowed that way. It wouldn't be allowed nowadays, that sort of language, would it?
I don't know. It seems pretty accurate.
Right, next
people
up.
talk like that.
Next up, we have Godfried's Grids. Don't know if you guys ever did that.
Nah, I didn't do anything in these sort of things in the books.
No, that looked like a Square or Robin Smith again doing an impression of a Square for the hard work of Burt 1. Judge Anderson, The Haunting, again, script robot Alan Grant, art robot Ken Raymond, and lettering robot Tony Jacob.
Is that staccato?
Yeah, that's basically Alan Grant, I think.
Right. I thought John was doing all the Dread stuff.
That's not Dread, that's Judge Anderson.
Dread World stuff.
I didn't say Dread.
All right, so there's a guy who's possessed, and so they bring in Anderson to depossess him, and then these demonic images flood in.
Dahak is the name of the demon.
What was that?
Dahak is the name of the demon, and she just in case, the usual thing where you have Judge Anderson's grave and blah blah blah, and she gives him a good old smack, and he gives up, and so she bottles the demon and drops it off in the Black Atlantic.
Yeah, it's basically a genie in a bottle thing.
Yeah.
And drops him in the so.
What do you think of
There
that?
you go,
What do you think of that?
John.
It was nothing new, and it was a bit like we've seen that sort of similar thing in other tales where
Paint by numbers, wasn't it?
yeah. I did like the artwork. It took me back to sort of like stuff that I'd seen pre 2000 AD, like oh god, I'm just trying to think what the stories were. It was a bit like the stuff I would see in like Tornado, that sort of art.
Well, Kim Raymond is very. I think personally, I think he's very underrated. He did the Dread Super Bowl strip with Decker, remember?
Oh yeah,
way back, and he did the City of the Damned episode where Dread knees Hershey in the groin.
He did a story that we did in another retro episode. Remember, we had like a guest, and we did like an old issue of the Prague, like 300 or something. And he turned up in that too, and we were both saying, like, you know what, this guy was really good.
He was very heavy on the inks, but the thing is, his artwork totally suits girls' comics.
Yeah, it looks like every other British comic type of art style, except 2000 AD. But now you see it now, and you're kind of like, you know what, he wasn't flashy, but he was good.
He would have suited like being an artist on Misty.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That kind of style. He's actually a Disney guy now, Kim Raymond.
No way.
Yeah. He does a lot of work for Disney. A lot of their prints and design work.
Oh.
Yeah, they came out with a anniversary special Mickey Mouse book, all artsy fartsy stuff. I actually bought it, and Kim Raymond stuff is in there.
Oh, was it that Art of Disney book from a few years ago?
Yeah.
Or probably more than a few years now. Yeah.
I think it's from two, maybe 3 years ago. Yeah, he did some artwork in that, Kim Raymond. He was the main UK artist that they used for licensed stuff in the UK.
I think he probably wasn't particularly great at tech, or, you know, and he wasn't like, you know, Carlos Escaro had just come up with design, and Cam Kennedy and those guys would just come up with designs for everything, the costumes, the tech, the architecture, and all that. This guy seems like if you show him a Judge Anderson costume, he can draw it over and over again. But, you know, the demon looks pretty generic, and, you know, so.
Yeah.
Did
you go ahead,
John? She'll probably
John.
get pulled off when she gets back to Justice HQ, because she should have brought that back to put in the Black Museum.
Yeah, dropping it in the Black Atlantic, it means pirates can get their hands on it.
That'll be a Mickey O'Carroll story in the year.
Yeah. Mickey O'Carroll will give him a whole backstory as well.
Right.
How he was good, and then he became evil, and then he became the demon, and now he's trying to be good again, just like Rico.
There'll be like three novels in a 12-part story, and then the Justice Department judges that were corrupt that allowed her to go do that, drop it in the ocean.
They'll do a trilogy, and the first 2 books you can buy separate, but the third one you can only buy if you get the whole compendium. It's not a standalone. And the book will cost $4 to buy, but $12 to ship.
Oh,
we're assholes.
Yeah.
Did you read the Star Wars? The Star Wars. Birth
I read the Star Wars. Yeah.
What do you think of that? Do you think that's really Billy D. Williams, or are they just making it up? Do you think that's just hard writing shit?
That was my second thought as I was reading this. I was like, I don't know if this is... I don't hear Billy D's voice in my head reading some of this. I think... do
you think maybe that Richard Burton saw this in another sci-fi magazine or something, or TV interview, and he just did his own play on it? Like rewrote it?
I think... Maybe. I think Billy... It could be Billy D, because whoever... Like, the answers clearly show that he doesn't give 2 fucks about Star Wars.
No.
But, yeah, I mean, it's... when did this was 84 already, though, so, I mean... The movie had already been out for 4 years, and they're talking about it like as if, he couldn't reveal too much or talk about it. I mean, they were all...
Yeah, but I wonder when it was released in the UK, though. Because sometimes, for example, Disney movies, when Disney had Buena Vista as their distributor...
Well, wait a minute.
That would take... I mean, I'm talking about Disney movies. Like a movie in the US would be released like Little Mermaid or something, and then 6 months later you'd see it in the UK or Ireland. That's the way Disney did it. But I don't know if that would have been the same with Fox.
Maybe this is a reprint from the Prague or something, because this, I mean, Return of the Jedi came out in 83, and this is the 1984 annual, so...
But it says top left, photos, Lucasfilm, 1983. But the thing is, with 1984, we get that Christmas 1983.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
All right, but I mean that came out it came out here in the summer of 1983. He just said Billy just played Lando for the second time. They mentioned Return of the Jedi in the introduction,
right?
But yeah, he's just strictly talking about Irvin Kershner and nothing about Return of the Jedi. So I really don't know about this.
Yeah, I thought it was just him making stuff up.
Yeah. And now that we know from your extensive interview with Richard Burton what a tech guy he is, you get the home is where the micro is.
Yeah, you actually use that as your typing thing, right, Mr. Ross? That Atari 400. That's what you're using now.
Apparently, James and his brother read this years ago, and that's why they bought 2000 AD and started their computer game company.
Yeah, they have a screenshot of Pac-Man and chess. Back in the day. Then you have Thor's mighty micro pages that you could program this into your computer, your ZX81. Man, that was I think that only had like 1 or 2K.
I wonder if there was a mistake in it and somebody replied and said, I think you'll find that 230 print should have been 230 print
Yeah.
I mean, who would sit there and put all that in?
Kids would.
Oh God, come on! Even I wouldn't at the time.
Get that great artwork as a result. All that effort.
Yeah, ZX81 was only 1K.
Look, if they'd have put there, put this number in and 10 year You calculate it upside down, you get boobless. That's what.
That is what technology was made for. The did you ever get that graphic novel Shatter? It was like the first graphic novel done on computer.
Yeah.
And it looks like shit.
Yeah.
I got a Batman one. That was the first one that they did on computer. That was terrible. Whatever it was about.
Yeah. That's I think the colorist that used to color Dave Gibbons stuff did that. Can't remember his name. Yeah, it's terrible shite. Bonjo from Beyond the Stars. This is all Kevin O'Neill artwork. I don't know who wrote it. Probably Kevin O'Neill.
I don't think we should talk about this with all the words that I said.
Well, if you thought Blakey Pentax was
exactly
cancelable, have I got a story for you?
I think they're reprinting this as the Blazer.
Oh, I'm walking away from that one.
I was reading this in the wee hours this morning, and every so often I would just go, "Oh dear."
Yeah, there's even a aye in the first couple of panels.
Oh God, you got honorable.
You can't even pronounce it.
Never mind. Ancient Chinese proverb say flattened grandparent make excellent kite.
Anyway, yeah. Do we even want to do the plot of this? Bonjo comes to Earth, attacks China.
And you have Mac Aardvark, which is awesome.
There's an Aardvark. Tharg comes in and has with the magic axe that I barely remembered.
The living axe.
Yeah, that was
living axe.
So he's wearing his dirty flasher overcoat.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to get the kids to buy the prog back then.
I mean, look at that on the page previously where Mac Aardvark's in the bowl and you got a skull with a Chinese rice paddy hat type thing on top.
Well, this is even racist to white people because there's the hillbilly there. He's covered with flies and he's picking his nose. Moonshine belly. Yep.
Oh, an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's racist equally.
Yeah. I loved it. Thought it was great.
You would.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
The artwork as well, wasn't there? So much in the artwork, and it was just hilarious. Hilariously stupid.
Yeah, you can tell that Kevin O'Neill loved. He loves monster movies, and he loved kids illustrations, like kid comics. The craziness and subversiveness of them.
Now this feels like it was.
Did you see the name of the doctor? Yeah, have you seen the name of the doctor who actually made Mac Aardvark?
Yes, Looney.
Diabolical Dr. Looney.
Yeah. Isn't it racist to come up with like fake Chinese names that actually mean something?
Well, he has a name.
Especially looks like that.
He has a name in here, Shang-Chi. He in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I remember that. No, well, that was the Master of Kung Fu.
There you go, Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm. They're called Marvel.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. Invasion, another reprint. Chris Lauder, Ian Kennedy, and Tom Frame.
The Vulgans have built a channel tunnel in mere months, apparently. This will mean that their resupply to the forces in the UK will be swift and easy. Meanwhile, Bill is on a boat crossing the English Channel when a chopper comes in for a closer look and confirms that the enemy of the Vulgs is on board. But Bill fires his shooter at it and it takes out the rowers and it crashes. He then meets Raoul of the French resistance and they formulate a plan to take out the tunnel during its official opening. Bill and Sylve are pretend captured by Raoul, who's in a ball uniform, and the officer in charge says that they will take them through the tunnel in their victory convoy as a bit of propaganda and execute them both. When in the tunnel, they attack the Volks around them and steal a jump jet, as Raoul decides to die fighting for France and England. So he's obviously not French then. So and shoots a hole in the roof, and as the plane is forced through into the water, they eject, and when they surface, a small boat picks them up, both up, and they've won the little battle.
The arc in this is really detailed. It's like it must have been a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because some of like the figure art and the weapons and the tech and all that, it's like you said, super detailed, and then there's like almost nothing else. There's the backgrounds are kind of sparse, but yeah, they sure packed a lot into 5 or 6 pages there, didn't they?
Yeah. I love the Channel Tunnel because that wasn't even around then.
No, but when they tried doing it like 100 years ago or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when did the channel actually open? Because I remember when my friend who was sending me these things, he never liked it. Why do we want to be connected to France?
I can't remember when it was. I think it was the 90s or something, I presume.
Well, it makes transporting goods a lot easier.
The weird thing is, this is a road tunnel rather than what we did get, a train line.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a real basic story and full of like happenstance. And
the jokes back then was that you should get Irish builders to build a tunnel. That way, if you miss each other, that you get 2 tunnels for the price of one. Ian Kennedy is so perfect for these kind of types of. He does a lot of plane stories, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean that plane looks fantastic, doesn't it? The way he's drawn all different angles to it. Rather, some people would just like try and stick to the same sort of thing, their best way of drawing it. But this, he's got angles underneath, from the right, from the left, so the front, giving it a downward look at it, sort of thing. Yeah, very nice. All the military tech. Even that open page with the panel with the sort of the rover at the front, looking back, and you see like the distance, the cranes, people putting like finishing touches to everything, people painting the entrance on the right hand side. Like you said, lovely details he's put into everything.
I don't think Simon Belmont listens to us, but I guess this would be his favorite story in the annual.
Yeah. Skiz, How He Came to Be. Did you read that?
No.
I glanced through it. It's hard to believe it's Alan Moore. It's like, remember when he was kind of normal?
Yeah. I do like the preliminary sketches, though. It's always good to see stuff like that. I always find that fascinating because the creature, like number 2, looks completely different than what they ended up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's always good to see that.
Looks like a monkey with a bird's beak type short beak on it, doesn't it? Or something weird.
Yeah, like a duck's beak or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff is always good. Alright, Judge Dredd, John Wagner, Ian Gibson, Tony Jacob. This annual is full of reprints. But it's good stuff, though.
Mm-hmm. We got Dredd and Giant burst into the apartment of Billy Jones' parents and grab hold of their son and proceed to rip his head off. He's only a bloody robot. Dredd knows that the lad has been swapped so that someone can commit industrial espionage against the father, who just so happens to be the chairman of Plastoid Industries. Also, now that that link has been severed, someone will come to see what's wrong, and that's when Joe catches the bugger, who immediately grasses up his boss, Hugh Howard. See what they did there? Dredd and a team of fellow judges force entry on the Howard's building and overpower all resistance, and while there they find numerous other boss's children along with Billy Jones. Howard makes his escape to the roof with Billy and falls off the bloody thing. Luckily for Billy, Judge Giant catches him. Unluckily for Mr. Howard, see, I'm doing the name the wrong way around now. Mr. Hugh Howard's, he doesn't catch him. And Giant's pappy would have been proud, because back in the day, he was the old jetpack flyer in the old, what was it?
Harlem Heroes.
Harlem Heroes.
Many links on that chain, John.
Too many.
Oh my god.
He looks like Captain Crisp in that first panel, the first page. There's some brilliant artwork in this issue. I mean, in this annual. I mean, the amount of detail, like the second page with the bad guy climbing up the wall.
Yeah.
The amount of detail is fucking crazy.
And that panel on the side where you got all the kids in the background, sort of thing, opposite page.
Yeah.
Even back then, he was predicting the elites had a child
Epstein
trafficking ring. They had a child trafficking ring, and they toned it down to the pedophilia, but it's the same idea.
And this was all just 4 pages, wasn't it? And it was bookended perfectly by the family at the front saying, Judge Dredd will get you. And then the family at the very end saying a very similar thing to their kid, if you don't behave yourself, Dredd will get you. You've even got like that H-wagon on that final page, looks fantastic, the way it's drawn.
Yeah.
You've got a fantastic eagle above the star. And and again, we've had recently with some of the artists, they've done, like they've done flashback stuff, they've done Dredd with the old stars across the shoulder pad sort of thing. I think Chris Weston did that in one of his tales a while back.
How can you tell which one is Judge Giant?
On this one, well, on that 3rd page, I can tell he's bottom left.
He's just. You would never get away with drawing Judge Giant like this today.
Yeah,
Would you?
That's true.
Does he have big lips or something? What's
Well, on the on the 1st page, the panel, it's very dark, the face with white lips. On the 3rd page, where we've got a side view room, black with large lips. And then on the final page, where he reaches across, it's again the lips are the predominant bit because the face is black.
Yeah, you'd never get away with that today.
it didn't even occur to me. I just figured it was.
That's because you're wearing your clown robes.
The story itself is nothing really that special, but that first 2 pages, that great shot of Judge Dredd,
yeah, that's brilliant.
And the fact that he's ripping the kid's head off, that sure grabs your attention. That's a real attention getter. And then the rest of it's just kind of like a race to explain it and finish it off.
4 pages.
Nice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rogue Trooper in first of the few, Alan Moore, Jesus Redondo on art, and lettering Steve Potter.
I pronounced that Jesus Redondo right.
It's Jesus Redondo. Jesus.
Jeebus. So it's New Earth, and Rogue's being chased through the mountains, and he runs into an old man who turns out to be another Rogue Trooper, and says, "Oh, you didn't."
It's actually Alan Moore.
Yeah, I know. If it had been Doctor Who writers now, it'd be a woman. So you think there's you think you're the first Rogue Trooper? Well, I was the first one. So they go back in time to Earth when everybody dressed like it was some kind of disco version of the 70s. And he enlisted, and turns out he went from having like curly... who's the guy who...
he looks like the guy from Star Crash.
Yeah, he has curly Marjorie Gortner hair, and then he's got a punk mohawk because it's the 70s, and that was bad news. So he fights on New Earth, and he just wants to die in peace, and so Rogue fights off all that because now he's got an advantage in the way the hills protect him, and he can fight the guys one-on-one. And then the old guy just kind of like gives up the ghost, and there you go. Oh, the big thing was that they could have biochipped him, and the biochips were saying like, "Oh, you got 40 seconds, hurry up, biochip the guy." And Rogue's like, "Nah, he can die in peace."
The artwork is really dated now, isn't it?
Mm.
Like it really looks like something from the early 80s, late 70s.
Except for, I don't know. Except for the costumes when they're on Earth, I thought it looked fine. I liked it, but yeah, and it's like insanely detailed. I mean, until you sit down and read until you look at the panel long enough to read the captions, it's hard to tell what's going on when you're flipping through it. It just looks like a lot of black.
Yeah.
His wife had Princess Ear buns on the side.
Yes, I saw that too.
It was enjoyable. It was. I did laugh that the bloke just managed to stay alive until Rogue turns up and there's a big battle. Then he just dies afterwards. I mean, I wonder what he's been eating all these decades.
I think Wooly Russell objected to the retroactively having other Rogue Troopers before this Rogue Trooper aspect of that.
You do that when it's Alan Moore writing it.
Well, they did do. Jerry Finley Day did do a story where they did have rejected genetic infantrymen that were just left abandoned on New Earth. Then they looked like kind of ape men. I don't remember that one, John.
I do remember that they had, like I say, I didn't remember exactly what it was, but I knew that they told stuff about previous attempts.
Yeah, but they weren't as advanced as this guy. Like, this guy just looks like an old Rogue Trooper. He looks like, what's his name? Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson, Rogue Trooper.
He's probably hiding out because he didn't pay his taxes.
He's probably French.
Even though he's been sitting there, like, getting old and decrepit for years, he actually looks better and more clean cut than Alan Moore looks now.
Flesh is R.E. Wright, art by Sola, and letters Bill Nuttall. We don't have to do a rehash of this if you don't want to. It's a reprint of part of book 1 of Flesh, because the original Flesh doesn't open like this, so it looks like they took some of the artwork and butchered it and sliced it and to try and make a coherent story for the animal, right?
It looks like the Banjo thing where there things have been added to the tops and bottoms of some of the pages.
Yeah, you can definitely tell from page 2 the way the panels are laid out that it was cut up and.
Yeah, I mean it's like the cowboys have to stay outside the Dome City, and the Earl guy has to go in with their
Earl Reagan.
Earl Reagan. Yeah, I know, what a tough sounding name. Earl Reagan has to go in with his sick buddy.
His gay sick buddy. That's his lover. That was retconned as his lover.
Oh. And then there's like in all these Western towns the doctor's also the town drunk.
He looks like W.C. Fields with his hulky nose.
Never give a sucker an even break look. And he meets Claw Carver for the first time, and then the dinosaurs get in, and then the two of them have to team up because there's like a dinosaur rampage in the dome, and that's like part 1. And so,
well, that's basically how it ends. Is they end up, the dome gets destroyed and they end up leaving.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing, I remember reading this when we first started doing the podcast way back when, like 11 years ago. Myself and Rich did this Prague. We did the first book of Flesh, I think, and I remember saying to Rich, I can't blame Claw Carver for being pissed off, because that was his city, his town, and now Reagan brings these fucking dinosaurs in and he ripped everything apart, so no wonder he's fucking pissed off.
Yeah. I'd
be pissed off too.
And pretty much everybody dies except these three guys, right? And so they kind of shave down that cast really fast. But again, it's like if you were a kid, who wouldn't want to see like a dinosaur rampage and people getting eaten? And there's just so much fucking mayhem in this thing.
And there's some classic images too. Like the first page is classic, and then there's the one where Reagan squares off against old One Eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the knife. Like, dude, you're not going to do anything with that. But there's some really good imagery. Yeah, I loved Flesh as a kid. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2000 AD, Fear File, War Marshal Kazan. Was the Apocalypse War going on at this time in the Prague? Or is this after? 84 seems too late.
250.
Oh, yes, this is way after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always love how people think that, well, Dread stories usually take place in real time, right? So a week in the Prague is usually a week in Dread's life. But the Apocalypse War only lasted I think it was 7 to 11 days. When you read it again, because it was spread out over months, you think it lasted months, but it didn't really. It only I think it's 7 to 11 days was all it took, and they didn't take all of the city either.
Yeah, unless it's a Kevin Neiman story, because the longest those could take is maybe 2 days, and it takes 6 fucking weeks to tell them.
Here's the sad thing, right? Uncle Pat's no longer writing for the Prague, and Gordon Rennie will be writing 3 stories out of 5 for the Prague I mean, if this was if 2008 was a horse, you'd bring it out back and shoot it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't shoot it. You just take a club and keep beating it, and beating it, beating it, and beat. Then it gets down on
like
one
flogging
knee,
a dead horse.
You're beating it, and then it gets down on another knee, and then beating it some more, beating it, and then kick it over on its side, and then beat it.
Oh, it's like I said as well about the Regent issues. It's not just 4 issues a year; it's actually more, because they spin off the stories like Full Tilt Boogie. They spun off into the regular prog. Department K they spun off. They're probably like 10 parts each, right? So they make up an extra 2 or 3 progs.
I told you we got Full Tilt Boogie at work. I asked our buyer, "Did you get this just to troll me or something?" He goes, "No." he actually thought he was doing me a favor because it was put out by the Rebellion imprint.
So when you add up all the chapters and parts, you're actually paying. The subscriber isn't just paying for 4 issues of Regent; they're actually paying for 6 or 7 because of those stories that are continuing in the prog.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter anymore. But I mean, in the forum, they're like, oh, those horrible ECBT Megaverse people, they take the Regent issues as a personal insult and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, it's just because nobody would really mind if it was like an all ages thing shuffled in there. It's just they're so tone deaf, and it's really hard to tell what they're even trying to accomplish because it's sandwiched in between stuff that isn't, it's like, oh, the Regent issue is great, Dad. Let me have the next issue. Stickleback's in there. I really can't.
But also Full Tilt Boogie's in there too. So it's like, what?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they'll follow up the Regent story with more Full Tilt Boogie or Department K, and the rest of the prog is not okay for kids anymore.
It's all willies and boobs.
Yeah, and then the stories themselves. Yeah. Maybe there's no cursing or swearing or blood or boobs or anything, but it's still it's not what the kids are into these days. And I'm not going to be like, oh, I pretend to know exactly what kids like. I can tell you what the kids don't like, and that's it. So anyways,
Judge
and those kids now are different than these kids who read this back in 1984 because
we were used to ultraviolence.
Yeah, I mean, those kids couldn't read a story about a robot dog that sets a house on fire. And
well, also you had also in the UK and Ireland, you didn't have that many TV channels. So if your parents are watching the Sweeney, the chances are you were watching it too.
Yep.
Right.
So you were being bombarded by this stuff anyway. So when you read dinosaurs eating humans and people being shot in the head and blah blah blah, it was like awesome.
Yeah,
but today's kids are completely different.
Right. So, and it's really hard. I mean, the way everything's made for these kids now, everything's a goof. You're doing Department K, but it would have to be like a completely goofy story,
Steven
and the people
Universe.
would have to be cats, and So anyway,
I think I will draw Dredd as Dogman. Judge Dredd, The Beast in 24B, script Alan Grant, art Robin Smith, and lettering Tom Frame.
Dredd comes upon a vicious carnivorous fang beast which has escaped from a travelling alien menagerie. It's eating a citizen, and Dredd shoots it, still manages to fly away. Joe then arrests the owner of the menagerie. Meanwhile, young Kelvin Gosper is experimenting at home with his biochemistry set when the beast crashes through his window and eats him. Kelvin's parents hear the noise from his room and just think it's him overdoing his experiments again. And when they go to look, the daft twats think he's changed himself into a flying mouse. They must be so stupid they're Brexiteers. They then treat him as their son, but one day he eats the neighbours, and so Kelvin's dad takes his belt off, the good old days, and gives him a good hiding in his By now, Dredd has been called by the neighbours due to the noise. He enters the Gosper apartment, only to find that the beast has now eaten the dad. And when it makes its escape attempt, Joe fires a high explosive round at it, which kills the bugger finally. He then sends Mrs. Gosper away to the Psycho Cubes. There we are.
You'll be happy with this one, John, because look at how many links there's on Dread in that first page.
I know, but then they changed a bit in a couple of panels, I think, if I remember correctly.
Is this kid supposed to be a teenager with special needs or something? What's the...
Well, I think he's based on Calvin Gosnell, isn't he?
Oh, and Shrek's in there, too.
Shrek?
Before Shrek. Before.
Yeah. Shrek's
oh, here we go, listen. You guys keep talking and I'll give the dog her pill.
The kid is so cool, he just wears one.
I thought he was doing it to be punk rock.
And he's wearing like a Justice Department one by the looks of it.
I know, right? Where did he get that?
I don't know.
Maybe he got it off of Wish.
Wish. Oh my god. Yeah, I thought this was enjoyable stuff, funny. It's very similar to other stories that have been similarly put in the prog, with like beaten characters and all that. I'm trying to think. The only thing that sort of made me sort of like was Dredd fires the rounds initially and it gets away, switch to a more lethal round, and then finally he just does one high explosive and takes it out. You know?
See, if that was Chimsky would have got away because Dredd would have missed.
Because Dredd's stupid.
If this is Chimsky, it would be like 6 parts showing the entire experiment that the kid does, and spending like a whole installment in the alien zoo showing how miserable his life was beforehand, and why the pterodactyl escaped, and well, it's not really a pterodactyl, but you know what I mean.
Well, the artwork is very flat. Robin Smith always struck me as... I love Bad City Blue, but that's the only real stuff I liked of his. But he's a great layout guy, and his storytelling in this is really clear and concise. I mean, you can tell exactly... You can take away the word balloons, you'll know exactly what's going on.
A lot of flat angles, though, but it doesn't have to be... I mean, the gag... You got the story for kids where the gag is where like dad gets eaten, the kid and the dad get eaten, and it's like this mistaken identity with a dinosaur. I mean, that was comedy to us back then. What kind of sickos were we?
The switcheroo.
Yeah. I mean, they don't show it graphically, but the joke is that the kid and a child and a grown-up get eaten by this monster, and that's the joke.
That monster reminds me of the beasts. I think it was like Warlords of Atlantis.
Yes.
Top of the circle and the swoop down type of thing. That sort of scene.
You're talking about the Mahars at the Earth's core, but
I knew he'd know it all.
It was a fair mistake. No, it was a fair mistake because it was a Doug McClure movie, who you might remember from such films as The People That Time Forgot.
I'm Doug McClure.
What?
Do it in your nerd voice.
It was the Mahars of Pellucidar, as written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. What was Hammer's evil counterpart that they thought might actually be satanic? Amicus?
Yes.
Yeah. Produced by Amicus Studios, starring Ms. Carolyn Monroe, First Lady of Fantasy.
Everything comes back to Carolyn Monroe.
That's what it is now for me.
You notice I don't know how she managed to afford this, but on page 6 in the background on the wall is a Mona Lisa, it looks like.
Got that too.
She must have printed it out.
Yeah.
Right, we have a 2008 Fear file with Artie Gruber with one of 2008's greatest early villains.
Yeah.
It's artwork by Bellardinelli. That's a great little sketch, great little drawing. Fantastic.
I wonder who ended up with that original.
Probably use it to stop water from leaking out of pipes. Yeah.
Both went the same route.
Yeah. Tharg's Mega Crossword. And then we have an original story, A Day in the Death of Torquemada by script Pat Mills or Kevin O'Neill. This is the second bit of Kevin O'Neill in the annual, and lettering Steve Potter.
So literally all it is Torquemada gets a new body, and he goes to the library, picks up the Necronomicon or something, the bestiary, and he goes home, and he goes to the bed with Candida's bedchamber and reads her from the bestiary and wishes her happy birthday. That's literally all it is.
It's amazing artwork, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a showcase of all the stuff that they don't have time for in the regular story.
You can see why Kevin O'Neill's art style is banned in the US.
Mom, that old man writing is scary.
Yeah, he's the only artist ever to be banned for his style.
Yeah, I heard that story. And then there's like this whole full page thing of him just like walking by this giant statue. But yeah, that is a beautiful picture of that statue, you know?
Yeah, it is. Even when you got the next page, the top panel, where you got all that darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's going, Mother, how is Candida? That sort of image there, that's fantastic. You know what I mean? Not much to it, but it's so it gives that massive.
It gives it an epic look, doesn't it?
Yeah. Without showing anything else, you just got like a little balcony type thing, and then those tiny little bits of light in that tiny little shape. Beautifully done.
All the shadows and silhouettes of him just walking around through all this scenery and stuff. It's terrific.
Real
And
artsy.
see, Mr. Ross, if you look on the final bit when he actually gets into bed, he's wearing his mask because he knows masks save lives.
Torquemada is Fauci.
Well, they had to regenerate him because he had gotten the vaccine, and so he needed a new body.
Oh, that picture of Nemesis looks really gross too. It's drawn like that on purpose to show how evil deviants are.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. That's good stuff. We have Meet the Droids. Did you read any of that? Who's Spec supposed to be based on?
I think it might have been the guy who was into house music and Rockzilla.
Geller, Simon Geller or whatever. Maybe.
Well, there was a guy who Rockzilla was. He wrote all the Rockzilla reviews.
That's Alan McKenzie.
Oh,
I think. Well, it's just weird. The DJ one is that's so much screams like "Hello there, fellow kids."
Oh, I know.
They catch it. Have you ever seen any pictures of Tom Frame? What he looks like?
No.
Well, not for many years.
That looks exactly like him. That caricature of him. Although he's lettering properly, Mr. Ross. He didn't print out Comic Craft stuff and then slice it all up and put it on top of artwork.
Yeah.
Well, you do what you can. We didn't have the technology that we had now.
No. The 2008 Fair File is the Trader General, and that looks like a Robin Smith trying to do an impression of Cam Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell by the nose. I could be completely wrong though. Ace, you know what? Here's funny. Ace Truck & Co. appears on the cover of the annual, but the article is just this is his only appearance in the annual. It's just like a center spread.
Yeah.
Of the Speedo Ghost.
Who is?
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Yeah.
Good drawing though.
Yeah, I like they've done the cutaways because when you look at GBH, it's cut away where the Ace Trucking logo is on the side of the Speedo Ghost, and you see him in there silhouetted.
Yeah.
And you see in the jock box, you see Ace. Yeah.
It's like what they used to do in the old Eagle in the 1950s.
I love
cutaways. Yeah, they have the cutaways in the middle, which they brought back in the 80s as well.
Yeah, we had H-Wagons and we had Dan Day's
Space Force.
Yeah. And he had Eagles as well, didn't he? The little craft that used to fly down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good old
craft.
I always found A-Scarp more demanding than the reward.
Oh, I love A-Scarp. I think A-Scarp actually talk about kid-friendly properties.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, now it's kind of like, well, compared to what they publish now, it's kind of like, yeah, that was, really fantastic. Even the worst of it comes across. Well, I wouldn't say it's bad. It just didn't care much for it.
Right.
I didn't care much for it at the time, but now I'm kind of like used to it. So it's like, oh yeah, it's great.
Okay, Thard's Future Shocks, where Jack Adrian rips off a Twilight Zone episode with art by Brian Boland and lettering Peter Knight.
So the astronaut is going to have to go, I don't know how long by himself in space. So he goes through all
6
these...
years.
6 years? Yeah, because he's going to Mars. So he's... No, he's not going to Mars. Where is he going? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The thing is, he's prepared for a long space trip, and he thinks he's in space for a really long time. And the shock turns out to be he was only in the flight simulator for 10 seconds, and he goes all William Shatner on him.
That's basically the first the pilot episode of the Twilight Zone.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it starts off where a guy's in a deserted town, and he keeps on hearing the phone ring or something, and he there's nobody around, and so he's slowly getting driven mad, and then at the end of it, he completely snaps, and they show him being taken out of a flight simulator, where he's only been inside for a minute or two, and it's supposed to do the effects of long-term space travel. The same idea.
Thankfully, they got this done in 3 pages.
Yeah.
So, probably took Alan Moore about 6 months to draw it.
Well, this is really the Alan Moore.
Brian Boland drew it.
Brian Boland.
This is really the Alan Moore annual, though, isn't it? Because it has like 3 original stories by Moore in here. Well,
yeah, I know. I was just thinking that. Plus all the text stuff, too.
Yeah. So, Roadbusters, script Alan Moore, art robot Joe Eckers, and lettering robot Steve Potter.
So it turns out that there's a rival to the Roadbusters, which is basically the Tracy family from Thunderbirds. Couldn't so unsubtle and not obvious at all. And then what was it? They decide to steal some dirt on these guys, or you know what? I read this like a week ago and I don't remember. There was a. It turns out that they were causing their own disasters, and so Lady Penelope ripoff gets the dirt on them, and then they set everything right, and then they get the switch is that they end up being hired for a movie, and they're like, yay, it's going to end up okay for us, and they just end up playing the bees in a cheap monster movie.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, sorry that wasn't better, but it was kind of,
no.
I think this is story.
I think this is the only time this guy Joe Eckers has ever drawn for 2008.
And it's really inconsistent too.
I actually worked with a guy called Joe Eckers, so I wonder if it's the same.
Oh,
if it's the same dude. He worked at Fox, an English guy too. So.
Oh, well, what are the odds?
Yeah,
maybe
probably is.
Yeah? Little did you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not Alan Moore's Watchmen for V for Vendetta.
No, but it shows that he's got a humorous streak, right? Like he would bring that to the ABC line of comics with the last American.
Yeah.
Or the first American. No, I think he's called The Last American. That stuff was really funny.
Plus, for a dopey humor strip, you got, this had to have been written into the script. You got cool images of the ship. You got some rescues going on. You got cool images of the Tracy ripoff family.
Have you ever read Top 10?
Is that one of the TV magazine?
No,
things?
it's Alan Moore's Top 10. The one about.
Oh yeah. I read all of them when they came out, but I vaguely remember. I remember it being really good, and then it kind of just.
Well, everybody had superpowers in it, and they had a lot of Easter eggs. The funniest, one of the funniest things in it. This is how good Moore can be. Where they had the Galacticat. Remember, you had the mice in the apartment. The superpowered mice in the apartment, and the exterminators brought in to get rid of them, and he releases Galacticat. So they have this time crisis, Secret Wars thing going on in the background with the cat and the mice. And then eventually the exterminator comes back to get paid, but because the mice went back in time and caused a time rift and everything else like that, it's like they never existed, so he never got his money.
Wow.
It's really smart writing, like really, really clever.
And for something like that to get so memory hold, what a shame.
Well, it's all in the background of Top 10. It's not even in the forefront of the strip.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's even like an Alan Moore story that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
The whole
Top
thing.
10 is great. It was great. You'd even have billboards like buy purple pants, like the Hulk pants in the background. It had tons of Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Ask Tharg. This is like the letters page, John.
Yes.
Did you read it, or did you go, fuck it, I'm not reading those?
That is correct. I just looked at the pictures that were drawn. But it's quite a mix of addresses here. County Durham, Belfast, Dublin, Midlands, Bedfordshire, Essex, Edinburgh, Bexley Heath down here, all over the place.
I love the how a 2008 cover is created, because you have Robin Smith's initial artwork, and then they show Boland, where Boland really spiced it up. But that's what I mean by Robin Smith being a great layout guy, because that's a great cover.
That is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It just needed some polish.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Loved it.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the.
In fact, I like his dread stance more than Boland's. Oh, hang on, what the hell's on there? Yeah, more than Boland's dread stance with dreads left arm dropped down. I don't like that. And also, Boland hid the right foot, which round the dome of the top of the building he's on, wherever the ledge. But yeah,
it goes from Block Wars to Block Mania.
Yeah.
And then they show the really interesting thing is, like, around Dredd's head it says possible Dredd balloon, and then Brian Boland like raises the gun hand up and fills that space. It's like, fuck it, we can't put a balloon there now.
Yeah. And Dredd's head isn't even covering the whole logo.
That's right.
Back when they said that, brand is important.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, next we have cover-to-cover Thrill Power. Man, this is when they start putting the covers in there, isn't it? There's some really good covers in there.
Iconic stuff. And again, there's covers here that people would have as T-shirts.
It was one of the most stupidest strips. I loved it because it was goofy, but it has one of the best covers, and that was Death Planet. Lorna Varn, I think, was the first, might have been the first female heroine of 2018. Because I can't think of any other female character that had a lead role.
I thought Halo Jones was the one and only.
No, Death Planet is way before Halo Jones.
That's Prog. Yeah, this is Prog 62, I think it says there.
They should bring back Death Planet and just completely play it. They should give it to who's the one who's writing like a direct-to-video movie stuff? Does
James Peavy?
No, that's
a skip straight. Oh, you mean Alec Worley?
Yeah, give it to him and treat it like it's a direct-to-video movie.
But only if they give him a good artist to work on it.
Right. Well, the problem with it now is that, by and large, the artwork is all somewhere between good and excellent. It's been the stories that have been sort of like, and the way they're paced for the, for the trade.
I mean, that super cover with the robot with the dog is fantastic. It's bold.
Which one?
The first one, top left.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's some amazing covers, and then they have the 2008 Tornado Angel Gang one that I did as them all as women.
Yeah.
I gender swapped them, Mr. Ross.
That's right.
And then is that Tharg over where Julius's house is next to it?
Yeah, it is.
The creep that stole Croydon.
That does look like Croydon because it is a big fucking cesspit hole.
Did you read the Mills movie Mad Quiz?
Fuck no.
Okay.
Okay, well, all right, here we go. Name the dog-like robot given to Boxy in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Anyone?
No.
Without looking at the answer.
I do remember the dog, but I don't remember its name off the top of my head.
Daggett. No, it was called Daggett, but I think Daggett was the... I'm going to actually cheat on this one, because I think Daggett was what it was called, but I don't think that was its actual proper name.
Muffy.
Okay. Muffy, yes, Muffy. The Daggett.
Muffy. Mm-hmm.
So we have a 2008 Fear file with more preliminary art of Tiger Commander. Yeah, we continuation of Flesh, Warden Worldwise, Alan Davis art, 2008 Fear file. We have Judge Dredd selected strips from the Daily Star, which have all been collected now and reprinted. They were pretty good.
So, I've done a little bit about each one of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't interfere with the law. That's a tap gang of robbing people, and Joe arrives on the scene and easily takes a couple out, but the third makes a run for it, and a SIP makes a citizen's arrest on him. Dredd arrests them both, as citizen's arrests are illegal. But next one, robo robbery. 2 demolition robots have been reprogrammed to rob a bank, and Dredd follows them back to their lair and takes them out with his bike cannon. Their owner tries to bribe Joe, but gets an extra 10 years added to his sentence. Then we got Lawmaster in action. Dredd is on the trail of some crooks who hide in a building, so Joe sends his Lawmaster in to flush them out. They soon come running out, only for Joe to arrest them both. Then we have Crime Blitz. Top Mega City 1 racketeer, Lombardo Chubb. He's relaxing in his penthouse apartment, laughing about how the judges will never catch him. And that's when Dredd starts a crime blitz on him. The judges find loads of small crimes, which soon add up to 8 years and 3 months. Typical Dredd. Then we have Even Death is No Escape. A judge is being gunned down by Calvin Yehudi, and Dredd goes after the creep. He fires dodgems into the area that Calvin is hiding and wounds him severely. Calvin is happy though, as he'll die there and not have to go back to an ISO cube. Unluckily for him, Dredd has him put into the Vault, which is a place where perps are placed into suspended animation until the advance of medical science makes such wounds curable, and then they can continue with the sentence. And then we have Presenting Walter. Walter the robot was granted freedom for his work during the robot war, but he turned it down to return being Dredd's robo-servant. One day he's taken prisoner by a creep who says that Dredd won't shoot his own robot. Obviously, Judge does shoot the creep, and the round passes through Walter's head, which is obviously empty, but Walter is happy that he could help his master as he is being paired, which doesn't please Joe.
That's Walter, the robotic punching bag.
Yeah.
And that must be Chief Judge Goodman.
Yeah.
I think these strips were on the Saturday Daily Star, right? I think they were originally in colour.
These ones, because they were bigger, the single line ones within the daily
were in the weekly each week. Yeah, well, the weekend one, the Saturday one.
I still say that these are the best way to get into Dredd, the books, the collected editions that they did, because they're so quick and there's so much in there that is typical Dredd. You know what I mean? You don't have to read a 6-page thing or a 20-episode thing. I mean, they did one of the Apocalypse War. I think they did in one of these.
Yeah.
It's like 9 panels. But yeah, all the kit, all the spiel, all the characters, the crimes, they're all in these books of all these Daily Star Dredds, and I still say it's one of the best things out there.
Yep. Next up, we have The Great Monsters of 2008, which is an excuse to republish artwork and give them a rating.
Yeah, I don't know how the Hungry Planet gets a 2.
Do you
It's a
think
fucking
it was?
planet.
Do you think it's all a reprint, or do you think he was just aping the styles of?
No, that's all. They're all taken from the strips.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder who J.H. Teed was, who wrote the Strontium Dog story at the end.
Maybe it's Alan Grant again.
Or Alan Moore.
Alan Moore could be Alan Moore. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got Robin Smith artwork. Spot illustrations.
Yeah.
What's interesting? Yeah, the art robot is Cherry Oscuro. Get it? Black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Well, that was the strip they did, didn't they? That strip about that weird piece of film. That was called that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was the artwork, and that was by Smudge, I think.
Yeah.
I actually like that. I think Simon Spurrier or one of the Simons wrote it. Yeah, isn't it interesting that on the cover you have Robo Hunter that doesn't really appear in the story. You have Speedo Ghost that's maybe what's it? Ace Trucking Co. Yeah, and all you get is a spaceship on the front, right? I mean, it's basically a text, an illustration piece, cutaway part. Strontium Dog is a text story.
Yeah.
So, but they feature prominently on the cover.
And Rogue Trooper doesn't really do much in his own story either.
Yeah. Strange on that. So, what was your impression of this annual? What was it like when you first got it in 1984? You wouldn't have got it in 84, Rossi. You would have got it later, right?
Trying to think. I think I only got it like a year or two later. My friend we started corresponding like after I graduated from high school, so it was like 85, 86, and he sent me a lot of stuff right away. So it was probably almost definitely before the 90s when I got it.
What about you, John?
I enjoyed it at the time, but I preferred obviously the Dread Annual, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I enjoyed it because at that stage of my life, it was just it was something in fact, I'm trying to think now. Yeah, it was the next year I went in the military. It was just like I'm going to use the term wrongly, but it was like a filler thing for Christmas because you were obviously after other things at Christmas at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those things you could pick up and put down. But I look back at it, and even though the flesh was like chopped and clipped all over the place, that was my main story because it was dinosaurs eating people. And at the time, as a kid, most young boys loved dinosaurs. You know what I mean? And yeah, that was my big story out that I enjoyed because I just wanted to see people getting eaten. But yeah, it was just like I hope I get that for Christmas. Cause I think does mine still the price in it? Let's have a look. £2.50. So yeah, in fact, would I have bought this for myself? I probably did at the time. I think I might have went straight into Smith's because in W. Smith's they had a big table full of all the annuals, and they were always out about November, if not earlier. And I might have bought these myself, the Dread and the 2008 one, because I know my mum used to get the Bruins and Our Willie, which we would all read. But,
I thought that was mainly a Scottish thing.
No, we would get that. Smith's had basically every Christmas annual would be out there, you know what I mean? Even like Smash Hits would have their annual.
Wow.
But,
Did you notice that the price of the 2008 annual is cheaper than the Dread one?
So $2.50 for that, and the Dread was Dread $2.95.
Yeah,
$2.95.
Probably because the Dread one had more original content
And more colour in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's your favourite story, Rossi?
Wow.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Hard to pick.
I'll be honest with you. Some of it was. I appreciated it, but like reading it now as an adult, it was kind of a slog. But the thing that really came home going through everything was that it's so different from like Marvel comics and American comics, in that what you got was all the imagery of like a Marvel comic where you're just flipping through and it's like, oh, dinosaurs and robots and spaceships and space soldiers and all this stuff going on. And it isn't until you actually realize it, did you realize how silly and, on purpose funny that this is trying to be. But I'm going to say, like, for the artwork, Nemesis, and oh boy, for the story, I don't know. For the story, maybe the Robo Hunter one.
That's the new material, right? You're not going to
the old. I'm trying to lean into the new material parts of it more.
Yeah, I thought, like, if you missed issues of 2000 AD or a lapsed reader, the annuals were perfect to pick up because of the reprints.
Yeah,
right.
And Flesh was one of the most popular stories in the early years, anyways. So it's not as if they're putting shit into the annual, like they did later years.
Well, I'm going to go off the, leave the group on this one, but I didn't care that much for Flesh myself. I preferred the more spacey or sci-fi-y type stories, or like Strontium Dog and Dread. But like the ones that were like more down to earth, like Invasion, even Flesh, because it's like dinosaur. It was less fantastical. Dinosaurs, even Ant Wars. It's like
I love Ant Wars.
They're big, huh?
Yeah. I love Ant Wars.
Yeah, but that's one of the ones that once I appreciated how funny all of it was meant to be, I went back and I was like, oh, now I get it. And same thing and Flesh too. It's kind of like all the old cowboy movie tropes with dinosaurs. I was like, now I get it. So,
yeah. All right, I think that's it. Anything to say before we hit the road?
Jeff Bezos is going to go into space.
Is he really?
Just breaking news, that is.
Is he going to try to buy it?
Yeah. He's probably looking for aliens so he can sell stuff for them.
He's going
to delivery.
Unleash a fleet of space trucks.
Is he wearing his mask?
Well, who knows?
Just in case. Space particles.
Well, he might be being a member of Trump's Space Force.
He's going to get himself a cultural appropriation Native American costume and start his own Space Bastards delivery system out in space.
I'm surprised that they haven't started using drones yet for Amazon deliveries.
Well, you see, I just don't think they'll be allowed, because if the drone's flying around and it drops the shit on somebody's head, there's going to be some massive lawsuits. That's why there'll be none of this flying car crap. You might be able to do it in the desert, but you're not going to be able to fly around people's heads.
Well, they've already did. Have you seen the car that they have now that can fly?
Yeah.
You need a pilot's license for it.
But they won't have that sort of stuff.
I can see that becoming more and more of a thing.
Out in the sticks, yeah, but you're not going to have people flying around cities, because look at the crap cars that are on the roads. Imagine when there's crap cars flying around.
Yeah, that's true. They'll make it expensive.
I just don't think it's going to be allowed in populous areas.
Yeah, we'll see. What about these robotic cars?
These self-driving ones?
Yeah.
Well, one of the blokes at work, he was in a self-driving truck with the instructor, and when it went down a hill, the instructor, it was on a bend on this hill, and the instructor said, grab the wheel. And the bloke was already grabbing the wheel, because he said, I knew we weren't going to make the turn. I just don't think it's ever going to come in properly. Yeah, it can go from one depot on a motorway all the way down the other side, but when they start driving around roundabouts with idiots everywhere, you're going to have cameras everywhere.
You know what they'll do? They'll use it for long-term trucking, especially here in the States, like getting stuff from Phoenix to Dallas in Texas.
And it's just got to drive down a motorway.
Yeah.
Well, you see, the problem is when you've got nutters. I mean, you're sitting at the roundabout and people aren't indicating, so you're sitting there forever. You know what I mean? And you're going to have cameras on every single angle of the lorry to get everything that's around you. And when one of those fails, what's going to happen then? You're just going to stop. Because I've driven round, you've got sensors on the front, that tell us if there's a cyclist on the inside or a person nearby, and it'll beep, 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 beep. So when you stop at a set of traffic lights, and there's a railing right next to you, like to protect the pedestrian, all you've got in the cab is beep, 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 and you're like, for fuck's sakes. Now the problem is, every so often it'll come up on the screen, sensor dirty, so that sensor doesn't work. Now if it's a camera, and it's a safety thing, what's going to happen is the truck going to stop. You know, I mean, if they say that they're going to have to, because they say like we've got like people sat behind the wheel, and if especially the cars nowadays, if it starts to go wrong, you take the steering wheel. Well, what's the point of that then? It's not a self-automated car, is it? And I'll be quite happy sitting behind the wheel of a lorry reading books and drawing stuff and listening to stuff and having a sleep if it's going to drive me somewhere. It's really pointless, isn't it? But like
I just had to wait long enough.
That's right, but I do think you can do like from like say Australia, and it just drives down one of those massive 2,000-mile roads.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well,
you're going to need a human behind the wheel anyway, because someone's just going to take out that sensor. If they know you have freight and you're like carrying something from Best Buy or whatever,
and there's nobody on board,
and there's no human on board, they're going to be like hijacking those things like motherfuckers.
Yeah, but then you'll have like there'll be like sensors that will say it stopped. I mean, we've had drivers who, if you pull in somewhere where you shouldn't, like one of the lads said that I pulled over for a pee. It was like 3-minute stop. I pulled over for a pee. When I got back, they said, "What'd you pull over there for?" And he was like, "I had a pee." Well, why didn't you? What, you'll be piss myself in the cab, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So there is that tells you what's going on. But yeah, I just don't think it's ever going to come in properly the way they think the future is. You know what I mean? We were supposed to all be having jetpacks in the 80s and 90s, weren't we? But look at the jetpacks they're using. They're not exactly jetpacks, are they? They're a bit cumbersome to do anything else. Even the one the Marines were using the other day to fly from a rigid radar and land on a ship. Well, you haven't even got the ability to hold a weapon in your hands, because the jet things, you hold them with both hands to get the angles and everything. So if somebody's on that deck of the ship, and unless you've got snipers ready to take them out, which we could go into with helicopters either side and all that, well, you're a bit of a sitting duck, aren't you? You know what I mean? So jetpacks don't work properly yet at the moment, and people fly around mostly on water when they're flying with their jetpacks. I wonder why that would be. So it's all these sort of things, you know what I mean? So if it happens, it happens. I mean, I've only got like a dozen more years of work left in me, then I'm dead. So who cares? I'm hoping I can get this 80% pay thing, this furlough. I mean, I'd love that. I think it should be my turn. I should have the next year on furlough, and I'll just bloody enjoy myself.
There you go. Well, you never know. They might have a variant.
Which, you know the variants now. They're not locations. It's Alpha, Charlie, whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the problem is, they said they're doing that because then you don't. They
don't want to shame countries.
But the problem is, why is it you're shaming countries now? It was okay for the Kent variant for ages and ages and ages and ages. It was okay for the South African variant to be called that for ages and ages and ages and ages. Now it's the Indian variant. Oh, we can't have it called the Indian variant. Why's that? You've just slagged off Kent. One little tiny area.
It's adding an extra step that you don't need. For example, the reason they're doing it is not the country shame, so that's why they use the alpha, beta kind of thing. But the thing is, if you're talking to somebody else and saying, well, this is the beta strain, and where's that from? Oh, that's from India. Oh, don't let anything in from India. Well, you're just talking about the same shit. You just added an extra step.
On the radio at night, when they got the experts in, they will say, and this is hilarious, and they even say it's mad, they say, oh, the Delta variant, which is the Indian variant, they have to then, every time they say what variant it is, they've got to say where it comes from, because nobody has a freaking clue. So the UN or the WHO have invented this extra bureaucracy.
Yeah, an extra step.
Yeah, so how much money was spent doing that? Because I bet that'll be all in documentation around the world. All that money wasted, all that manpower for something that is not needed.
Did the beta variant come from James Corden? Because he's like the ultimate beta male.
Damn, mate.
He's another one that's in danger of getting the virus, Mr. Ross, because he's obese.
Yeah, he's trying to lose weight, though, isn't he? I think, from what I've seen.
Yeah, well.
We hope you're okay, Mr. Ross, because we know you're in one of the places where people don't really care about each other, because otherwise there would be all those people living on the streets.
We had some homeless guy come into the store. I assume he was. I assume he was homeless, and we're not supposed to say that. I swear to God, it looked like he was wearing a G-string on his face as a mask. It looked like a banana hammock on his.
And you never took a
the
picture.
two sides of his mouth. It didn't even cover. It was like a piece of material, and it didn't even cover to the two ends of his mouth.
And you never took a picture?
No.
I'll tell you what, when there's any accidents at work with vehicles falling over and crashing, I'm out there with my camera taking loads of pictures.
Well, it's harder to take pictures of the homeless people because you never know who's going to freak out on you.
Everywhere.
Yes.
You're stealing their soul when you take their picture, Mr. Ross.
The Chinese will know exactly who they are and what they look like.
Oh, good grief. Okay, anything to say before we hit the road?
It's time for tea.
Time for tea. Okay, I'll stop recording.
Judgment time.